Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall,
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhower.
and what a week it has been. Football all over the place to watch. Not in Vancouver. Well, actually, some in Vancouver. I'll come to that at the very end when I talk about my trips to VMSL.
I was going to say, I saw you
Yeah.
over. So
So, I mean, yeah, interesting stuff coming out of that. But that'll kind of tie in with what we're going to talk about in part 4. There's been drama. There's been controversy. There's been a lot to talk about. And there's a lot that's going to be to talk about this coming week as well. We're going to talk about the international stage. Christine Sinclair hanging up her international boots. BC Place has become Christine Sinclair Place.
yeah. Have
for
you seen the
big game
logo?
on Tuesday. I have. It's really
Very
good.
nice. Very
I
nice.
really like it.
Classy.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk the Euro 24 draw that threw up an AFTN derby. We're going to talk, of course, the punishment that has now been handed out for Vanni Sartini and the Whitecaps. Some other Whitecaps news of the week. Round up the MLS playoffs and continue our discussion from last week as to how we can fix Canadian football. And last week, Zach, I talked about Gardyloo, and you had regretted instantly asking what Gardyloo was. But I ended up, as you may have seen, calling the show Gardyloo because I thought we spoke so much about getting the shit out of Canadian football. Gardyloo seemed the most appropriate phrase for that in the end. Don't know what we're calling this episode yet. We'll kind of see how we go with the flow. But before we get into that football chat, how's your week been?
It's been a good week. I got to go to the island. Saw some football. It was nice. Saw some
always
goals.
good. Yes, you saw a lot of goals. But we'll talk about that game very soon. I got my Christmas decorations up this week. The last couple of years I've been really late in getting them up, so I wanted to make sure. I'm feeling festive. I don't know why. Got to go to a pre-opening event at Van Dusen Garden, so I don't know if that's what's put me in the spirit.
Is that for the lights?
Yeah, I always like to get there, if not every year, every couple of years. And of course, if you want to be really Scottish, you can just go to Coquitlam instead and take in Lafarge
Laforge.
lights, which is free, which we will be doing.
I said Laforge. You said Lafarge. I think you're right.
It's Lafarge. It's definitely Lafarge. I didn't know anything about them until a couple of years ago when I was up at a VMSL game, and I was like, what are all these lights? And then I looked it up at half time. I was like, this is amazing and free. It's like ticks all my boxes.
Right next to Percy Perry. My in-laws used to, before they moved out here to Abbotsford, they used to live up the hill from there. So yeah, we used to go there. Yeah, it's quite beautiful how they do things up.
Well, of course, you are in Abbotsford now, and there's an atmospheric river coming, and that devastated Abbotsford last year. Are you worried?
I just heard that today. I'm not worried about where I live.
Yeah, you're up a hill, but can you get down the hill? Is your house going to become an arc?
Last time I could get down, and I could get to the airport to get away to go to Edmonton for the football. I knew some people in Chilliwack, they had to miss the football because they and that they couldn't find a boat to get them across.
It was so
I
bad.
know. And,
It's apparently not going to be as bad this time
yeah,
around.
that's what I've heard. But in all seriousness, I do know people who live down on the flats there in the plain, the
Mm.
Sumas Prairie there, and
Yeah, our
yeah,
thoughts go
it's
to everyone. Hopefully, everyone stays safe and just drives safe. Which, because there's so many like here in East Van, there's just leaves everywhere clogging the drains and the side things. So you worry when
oh,
there's a
hydroplaning
lot
and
of
yeah.
a lot of rain coming. It's just going to overflow. Hopefully, the weather's not too bad for the game on Tuesday night as well, and it doesn't maybe keep folk away. The weather just in general has been weird. I take it you've seen the weather in Germany just now as well. It's been all
Yeah.
snow and
Yeah, our game
games.
our game got postponed.
Yeah, games were off and flights have been
Poor
cancelled. And
poor Manu. Manu went over for the game.
so that's the point. I knew he was in Frankfurt, so that's what he went over
Oh,
for.
he went over for the Bayern game.
Oh
Bayern versus
wow.
Union.
Well,
He's
East
taking
Fife's made it.
he's taking in other games and he's going to
Ah right.
connect with his I think he's going for the transfer market Christmas party and doing other things while he's there. But
Ah. Well, the East Fife have made it 2 weeks in a row now undefeated as our game got called off as well. We have an all-weather pitch that didn't survive the weather, so that's always a
what's the
plus.
weather? Is it snow? Is it copious
It
amounts of
was
rain?
frost. Apparently, the
Oh,
machine that breaks the frost up on the pitch broke, so they weren't able to dislodge the frost. So
the
money well
frost
spent.
breaker broke.
Yeah. Then the FA Cup. I was watching Alfreton Town against Walsall, non-league against league, and this is just typical of modern football. So the game's on BBC, so they're desperate to get the game on.
Yeah.
The show starts, you see the pitch all covered in snow, and then it's been cleared, but you can see that it is icy as hell. And it's like, that's going to be rock hard.
Yeah.
The game got called off about 2 minutes before kick-off time. Fans were in the stadium. They travelled up from Birmingham to Alfreton, so you took a couple of hours journey as well, in really treacherous conditions. And if it hadn't been on TV, it would have been called off right away. The Walsall manager said, yeah, as soon as I walked in, I was like, this game's not going ahead.
Yeah, the Bayern game actually, I think the official reason was the host team and stadium, which is actually they're in the same because Bayern owns the stadium, and the city officials in the league are the ones who come together to make the decision. And ultimately, the decision was made for the reason they made it for Bayern was because they felt it was too unsafe to have 75,000 people come out to Frotmanning in those weather conditions. So the pitch would have been playable. The only reason the game gets called for the pitch is if the referee decides that the pitch is
Yeah.
unplayable. So the pitch was fine. They could have played, but they
See,
said no,
I
it's unsafe
love
for the
that.
people to get here. Yeah.
I absolutely love that because that is just not taken into account at all. Because this is an early kickoff as well. It's like 12:30 p.m. UK time. So it's like you've had folk leaving really early.
Oh yeah.
There was like yellow alerts for snow and ice and everything. And now they've had a wasted journey and they've got to go home and travel in those
Oh yeah.
conditions. So
Michael,
ridiculous.
you want nothing to do with that yellow snow, whatever you do.
No. And it's like with all the rain here, it's a good job that BC Place has a roof because it could be a waterlogged pitch on Tuesday night otherwise. And you know, if Tim Ford was an official and the pitch was waterlogged, he'd be having flashbacks to that False Creek comment and he'd be calling these games off. He wouldn't want to take that risk.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that in the next part. But for this part, we're going to kick things off on the international stage because there is a lot to talk about. And we're going to start off with Canada. They went big on the girls from down under. They went nap on the island. I've explained before, I love the phrase going nap. It means to score 5. And it's not really used over here. It's I'd like to throw it in as many reports, commentary, whatever I do. So the girls went nap.
Text to me, yeah.
Yes. Big 5-0 win against not first choice Australian opposition. Yeah, I would have to say. That was a very strange lineup that the Aussies put out there.
I got to hang out with our good friend Harji Jahal on the island.
Yeah, I hear you gave her a ride home as well, which was very nice of you. She wanted me to thank you on the show.
Yeah, we got her home safely. Yeah, she was saying that it was weird because the Australian manager, the Swedish Australian manager, had made comments that made it sound like he wanted to give them a good test, for the series,
Mm.
Sinclair's final matches, and blah blah blah. And then he came out with that lineup, which makes her think that the second game will have a much stronger lineup.
You would
But
have to
but
think
the
so.
thing is, there are some of their key players are injured and missing, right? Like obviously Sam Kerr and I forget her name now. The goalkeeper who was huge
Oh,
in the World
yes.
Cup. Um,
Yeah, West Ham goalkeeper.
yeah, her
Yes,
name's escaping me.
Sam Kerr not coming, of course,
Yeah, Sam
was.
Kerr. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's like I think everyone was hoping for that. I never got my interviews done with the Aussie girls that I was wanting to do because
Oh, right.
their PR comms person just never got back to me. So I'm like, all right, well, fuck that then. We
Is
won't
that
bother having that on the show.
par for the course?
It seems to be at times this year, but yeah, I don't know. I might follow up because I would still like to speak to Steph Catley, but hey, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. After a 5-0 defeat, I'm also not sure that they're going to be that wanting to
Chipper?
talk.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say, I loved their strips. I've seen a
The
couple of
mint? Is it
teams.
mint?
Yeah, mint
Yeah.
green, I would describe that as. I've
There
seen a
was
couple of teams wearing that, and I love that.
there was a number of positive comments in the stadium about that. I will say that.
Oh, it's a beautiful color. I
And there was,
genuinely like that.
as you would expect, there was a number of Aussies in the stadium.
Yes. Well, there's a number of Aussies everywhere.
Yeah.
Bread for bar work, as Al Murray, pub landlord, used to have as his routine. You gotta love the Aussies. They're bred for bar work.
But it was a nice day out. Like it was, I got to go. I was
What
supposed to
was
go.
it? A nice day out?
No, it was. You know what? It was.
I'm
It was
talking about
only
the weather, of course.
yeah. It was only the end that kind of got kind of gross. But I was supposed to go over with my buddy and fellow Fraser Valley fanatic Andrew Harley, but he was recovering from being ill and thought, yeah, being outside for two to
Yeah,
3 hours in the
with no
rain
roof.
with no roof. Yeah, we were in the section with no roof.
It was
Um,
torrential. I mean, you're saying towards the end, at the start of the second half, the Aussie girls, because they had close-ups of them, they were chittering and shivering. They were like soaked
yeah.
through and freezing.
But before that, so then I went over. I ended up going with Jamie and Rob from the Voyageurs, and it was a lovely day.
Yeah, I
It was
saw
like,
your pictures when you
yeah,
first got to the stadium, and
yeah. We
it was
got
a
to the
nice
stadium,
ferry
and it was
ride
just
for
like
you.
we're like, oh, we hope this holds because it's if it held, it would have been perfect. Because it was the thing was even though when it did rain, it wasn't freezing for a beginning of December day
Mm.
or evening, and yeah, it was only when the rain came, really in the rain in the second half because the first half was there was long parts of it there was no rain. But it was fun hanging out with voyageurs from the island and all around. Um, they so yeah, what happens with the voyageurs usually like local people help lead the section, right? So Lakeside Boys, um, guys were leading things, so it was a lot of fun. But one of them said to me, Michael, this is hopefully this happens. I don't know if it was just a hopeful thing or was it a factual thing. I didn't follow up, but that they might actually be moving to a section where they'll be under a roof for next year, which
Oh.
which could be a really good thing for them. Although the place he told me had me concerned for them because they'll lose some of their traditions, but they'll have to forge some or create some new ones.
Yeah, don't say the F
Not
word.
to the F word, yeah.
Well, I saw a video. I was tagged in a video of the Lakeside kids as well.
Yeah,
So the next crop of kids that's coming through. I mean, that's good for them as well to have that coming through.
yeah. Well, they had a bunch of young ladies lead one of the chants, which was really a lot of fun. Well done. The chant that you wouldn't maybe know as the Marius.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, can you take a lot from it from Canada's point of view? 2-0 up in the first half, pair of goals for Nichelle Prince. So, I mean, that's one of the big sort of positives from that as well.
I mean, I haven't watched it back. I haven't even watched the highlights back. But what I took from it was, I mean, obviously with, Schmidt moving on and now Sinclair retiring, there's this significant shift within the squad and whatever. The thing that I can't remember, I think she might have done this for one of the Brazil games, but it was interesting to see Barrett Friesman play a back three.
Mm.
And it was kind of like a 3-5-2, and which three strong central defenders back there: Rose and Buchanan, of course, and Vanessa Gilles. But the thing that was most exciting is it pushes Lawrence a little bit further forward, because she is probably the most technically gifted. Well, maybe not technically, but she is the most maybe complete player with her pace, I think, that Canada has. And I think the more that they can get her further up the field, the better, right? Like, she's obviously been in the past, maybe you've done this too, compared a little bit to Alphonso Davies in terms of, hey, she plays fullback or wingback, but she could also, and when she wants, she does damage, further forward. So it was good to see her further up the field. And then Prince is another interesting one with how that match started, and with, in kind of the beginning of the post Sinclair era, because I feel like I haven't seen Prince play a lot through the middle. She's often in the past played wide in a front three. And I thought, again, obviously the opposition was what it was, but I was really impressed with her, her will to win, her will to win the ball back, and then even just her finishing. Where we were in the stadium, actually, the one thing that was kind of awkward was, it's because I ended up standing in the second or third row of the bleachers, which is like 15 to 20 feet back from the touchline. But where I was, Michael, I couldn't actually see. I only know the ball went in the net because the net bulged, because I couldn't see you can't see the bottom. And then where I was, I also could not see the video screen either. I could only see the top of the video screen. So it was not great it was great for community. Got to hang out with lots of fun people, but
so you had a restricted view seat.
Yeah, I guess I could have walked down to the front and kind of try to be at the edge of near the edge, but even there, yeah, I think they could have seen the touchline, but I was really impressed with Prince. Like,
I was as well. I think that was like, I didn't mean anything demeaning by saying, can they take anything from that? Because obviously they can, but
yeah,
it was a weaker Australian squad. Mackenzie Arnold wasn't in goals. We mentioned Sam Kerr's
Arnold,
missing.
that's her name, Arnold.
So I mean, it's a very different Aussie team to the Aussie team that we saw them go up against in the Women's World Cup. But you can only beat the team that's in front of you.
Yeah.
What I took from it was they played some lovely passing football.
Yes.
It's a great confidence booster as well, because it's all been like, where's the goals going to come from? Well, now you've got these young players coming through, and they've got to get experience, and this will give them so much hope. My only disappointment, Geneva Hernandez-Gray didn't get on. She will clearly see the pitch on Tuesday. I say clearly. I'm hoping she will see the pitch on Tuesday. But overall, there was a lot to be positive about. The movement. It'll be a whole different test on Tuesday. And Tuesday's going to be the interesting one, because, as we talked about in last week's show, it's balancing the emotions of the whole occasion with, we still have to work as a team and develop some stuff. But
yeah,
I think it's more going to be the emotion. It's more going to be the showcase. Just the spectacle is what Tuesday night's game will be. And I'm sure the Aussies really will want to try and spoil that party a little bit. But it's going to be such an emotional night all round. I know that there's going to be presentations made honouring players and various things as well, from CSA, from Voyagers, various stuff like that. What I'd want to talk about, because this is obviously going to come out Monday afternoon, so it's not a lot of time before the game. So I don't want to get too much into the game, but I do want to talk a little bit about Christine Sinclair.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say to you, as someone that's watched her for many years, I should have asked you this before we recorded. I meant to ask you this. You saw her play for Whitecaps back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I was almost certain you had, but...
Yeah.
So what does Christine Sinclair mean to you as a Canadian soccer supporter?
Yeah, I think she's legendary, right? Like, she is, I don't know. I someone asked me this recently, and I was just like, oh, there's so many things, right? Like, she's an incredible finisher. She's historic. She has done so many things for the game in Canada. that it's hard to almost weigh her, her value or what she's contributed, right? I think, and it'll carry on while she's still a player at club level, and then I think everyone hopes that she'll play some kind of role in the game, even though she's talked, I think, about not wanting to be a coach. And
Yeah, I asked her that last year or the year before,
yeah,
actually when Karina took over in Portland.
you're right.
And I'd asked Christine about that, and I was like, do you see yourself going into a role like that? She's like, nope, I see
Yeah,
everything that Karina and Rianne at the time put up with, and she's like, that's not for me.
yeah. But so yeah, but you wonder if she'll be involved in some way, shape, or form, like especially with Project 8. Uh,
You'd hope
everyone,
so.
you kind of
Ambassador, league ambassador, even, or
yeah, or commissioner, or I guess Matheson's probably going to be the commissioner, but
yeah,
but even like yeah, I guess this is somewhat presumptive, but you figure this is her last year at Portland as a player, and then she either moves in off field, like she retires completely, or I mean, there's even some people who, and we've even talked about, I think, would she do a year on field in
yeah.
Project 8 to
The, the only thing
help
about
launch the
that, of
league?
course, is like to her, Portland's home.
Yeah,
She loves it. She's was at university there. She's played for the team there. Obviously, she's from
I
Burnaby. She's Canadian. She loves Canada. She loves BC. But Portland is her home.
yeah, I could see her choosing to do a year, you know,
I
or if not, then choosing a role that she
yeah
can live in Portland and play a role within the
yeah.
league.
My heart says yeah. I'd love to see her for a year here. What that would do to the new Whitecaps team, for example, it'd put so many bums on seats.
Yeah,
The thing about like anyone that has been fortunate enough to chat to Christine Sinclair, whether in an official capacity and unofficial capacity, she's so self-effacing. She
yeah,
shuns the limelight. She's going to be
yeah,
dreading Tuesday. You just know that she doesn't want any fuss. We
yeah.
played audio before in the show where she said, "Look, I want to know everything that's happening. I don't want any surprises." I don't think she's going to get that wish. I'm sure there's going to be a few surprises along the way. But, I mean, she'll get recognised in Portland, but she's free to walk around the streets in Portland when she hangs her boots up and not get hassled. Walking about here, she'll get stopped constantly for autographs, for selfies, everything like
Yeah.
that. And I don't know that that's the kind of life that she wants or
Yeah.
would enjoy any aspect of it. Like she likes being out with kids. Saturday, up at what used to be called 40th, now the Christine Sinclair complex up in Burnaby. Burnaby Football Club had a whole training session. She was doing training with them and had a panel afterwards. She's got a charity event that she's got on Wednesday
Are you
here
going?
as
Are you
well.
going?
Not a $3,200 for a table of 10.
Wait, that's cheaper than I thought it was 6,500 for a table of 10. That's what I was told.
That's just what I told you because I was trying to buy two tables.
Oh,
So if you pony up the 6,500, no, I could have sworn I read it was 3,200,
you might be right. That's just what I heard from people.
but that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's a
but
lot of chocolate digestives, which incidentally you can't pay by. And I wasn't able to use my GAM either that Axel gave me as a Christmas present last year.
that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, never tired of those jokes.
No.
Um, but yeah, Tuesday's going to be emotional. It's going to be special.
Oh,
I mean, to
yeah.
be part of that, it's going to be great to be there in the stadium, and people will hang around you. Imagine for quite a bit after the final whistle.
Well, I hope they do,
And
because I don't know if you get the Voyageurs emails, but
I
like
did. I wasn't sure how official that was because I was starting to talk about it, and I thought, oh, maybe it's a surprise, and I'm not meant to say anything.
I think that they just put out and said, please stick around post match, because
Yeah,
we want to do some post match celebrations and honoring and stuff. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I don't see too many people. I mean, there's going to be stuff pregame as well, but yeah, I would encourage everyone to
Yeah.
stick around.
The players are arriving at 5, I believe, as well. So if
Yeah, so
fans
you
want to get
can,
there early
yeah,
and
so
cheer
yeah,
them in,
so people who, so I don't know if you know this, Michael, but for the last, well, no, more than 2.5, 3 years, the Voyageurs have really encouraged this culture of meeting the bus at the stadium, the Canada bus when it arrives at the stadium. So for this game, the players are just they're staying really close to the stadium, so they're just walking over to the stadium. So yeah, so they're just doing like an honor guard or whatever. There'll be like a thing set up that they can
Nice.
walk through, and fans can greet them and welcome them, and yeah, bring flags and bring stuff and yeah, support them. But obviously, the one issue is yeah, you need to be there by 5, and that's probably an issue for many people.
Yeah. I hope to get there for about 6 just to kind of soak the atmosphere and everything in. I mean, she's such a legend. I've been lucky to get to chat to her a couple of times over the years. Not very much because she does do very limited interviews and a lot of it's with the big
Yeah,
guns.
I've heard. That's part of what I've heard this week is a little bit of the frustration that
Yeah,
she
it's
she's only talking to CBC and TSN or whatever. And
yeah.
that's
She
it.
had a press conference today,
Right.
which I couldn't get down to because I was at the VMSL game. But I was like, oh, it starts at 6:15. I can get from UBC to downtown for it, and then
I should have gone for you. I could have maybe gone to that
well,
for
at
you.
half time of the VMSL game, I checked my emails and it's like we've brought it forward to 5:30. I was like, well, I won't
Oh,
be going to that then.
oh, I still could have gone. I could have gone for you. I should have talked to you about it.
Ah, yeah, I've surely liaised. But I mean, she's such a wonderful person. It's going
Yeah.
to leave. It's going to leave such a big hole in Canadian soccer on the pitch, not just because of her contribution, but you look around that team, and with all respect to the other women, it's like there's some big stars on that team,
Yeah.
but there's nobody that has just that star power that Christine Sinclair has. Nobody that the media is like, oh, we want to speak to Sink, we want to do this, oh, she's the player, we're talking
Yeah.
around about her around the world. So someone needs to step up,
I think
and it's
Janine Becky has a
big.
bit. Janine
Yeah,
Becky has a bit of that, but
Kadisha Buchanan's another one. She's definitely got star power. I
in
mean,
terms
you'd
of
hope like Jordan
Jordan,
Hutema,
yeah, I was gonna say Jordan.
but
Hopefully,
that's maybe. I mean, I always thought Adrienne Leon was going to be the person that was going to come through, but that was mainly because she signed for West Ham again. But as like one of the Aussie girls I was wanting to speak to, apart from Steph Catley, Katrina Gorey is also linked with West Ham,
oh,
and she was one of the two that we spoke to when they were back here in 2015. So it would have been a nice little follow up. Maybe we'll get that done. If we do, we'll bring it in next week's show. But if you're heading along, if you're listening to this before Tuesday, if you may be having this as your pre-game warm up in the way to the game, stay safe, enjoy the occasion,
yeah.
just soak it all in, and pay tribute to the greatest Canadian football player that there's ever been.
Mm.
Keeping on the international theme, though, we'll move to the men's side now because what what a Saturday it was for Germany.
Yeah,
Just in general,
it was.
did you watch the under-17?
I did not. I've seen parts of their run, but I did not watch the final.
Do you know the result though?
Oh yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
that was one hell of a final. If you get the chance to see it, because it should be on TSN on demand and stuff like that as well, watch it. It was absolutely tremendous. If there's highlights, watch the highlights. Finished 2-2. Now, this pissed me off. Now, I know the whole tournament, there's not been extra time. For a World Cup final,
Mm.
have extra time. Don't
Is it
just go
because
straight to
their age
penalties.
is trying to protect them or
I
something?
think possibly because, like, the 17s play 80-minute matches. Whitecaps used to play 80-minute matches as opposed to 90, but they were
Yeah.
playing the full 90 for this. But I mean, it's a World Cup final, for heaven's sake. Go to extra time. Although if it had gone to extra time, I don't think Germany would have won because they had gone down to 10 men.
Right.
But yeah, your Ginger Ninja came up big in the penalty shootout. Some really good saves, and the Germans did what they couldn't do 60 years ago and got the better of France to lift the World Cup. And happy German faces all round.
Yeah. They have captured the imagination of people in Germany because I heard Manu talking about it that I think like the group stages like weren't on big channels in Germany on TV. But
Oh wow.
either for or after they beat Spain, all of a sudden it
Ah.
was yeah, and it was
Oh,
probably
it's like TSN coming in to show Christine's last
yeah.
game.
Well, they were just like people really appreciated how they showed this kind of traditional German will to win and grit and whatever. Yeah, all things that everyone would say the full men's national team has not shown for quite a while.
Yeah.
Maybe going back to 2014 or 2016 or yeah. But no, they've gone on quite a run. Obviously they've scored a number of goals from the spot outside of their the shootouts they've been in. I
Yeah.
think Bruner, I forget how many penalties he scored, but I think it's 3 or 4 that I've
Yeah, they've had
seen.
a lot of practice on the penalties.
Yeah. But no,
I
just really, really happy. And there's the cool thing is there's well, a couple things. One is there's like four, five, 6 guys in that team who are going to be like quality players at club level. And the other thing, which you may or may not know, and I forget his name, but I'm going to butcher his name. There's a central midfielder who plays for Schalke, who I don't know if he played in the tournament at all. I saw him on the bench earlier on, but he's a starter for the team, but he was carrying a knock, and so I think he didn't play after. I forget he didn't play in any of the knockout games. I don't think, but he was like if he was fit, he would be like a for absolute starter for them. And so the fact that they did it without him was quite interesting.
It was from the semis. It was the final I didn't want. The third place game, and I don't usually watch third place games. I've no interest in them usually. But the third place game was the game I really wanted as the final, Argentina Mali, because Mali have just been tremendous and beat Argentina 3-0. Finished third. It was a absolutely
Oh right, yeah,
amazing
yeah.
performance by them, and of course had disposed of Canada earlier. Canada,
Yeah.
clearly that was the group of death that Canada were in and didn't get out of it. But I'm pretty sure, Zach, that the German joy just lasted a few hours
Ah,
because then it was the UEFA 2024 draw and Germany have found themselves in the group of death.
is it really?
I'm billing it as that, yeah.
Because I think what group is it now? Is it the one that is it Holland and France in the same group?
Possibly. Let me
I
get
can't remember who the
those
third team. The third
back
team's
up
obviously
again.
not on that level, but I think that group is, yeah, a little more top heavy, obviously. But I think that's more of a yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
you didn't get to watch the draw.
No, I didn't watch the draw. Was it entertaining? Usually I love watching the draws. It's so fun.
It
Where
tried.
did you watch it? Was it on TSN or was it
Yeah, it was
on?
on TSN.
Yeah,
Yeah,
TSN. Nice.
it tried to capture the essence and the history and
Oh,
the culture of Germany. Well, to an extent, maybe glossed over
Michael,
some of the history,
Michael, Michael.
but it was fine. It ticked along better than some of the draws that you're like, oh, but you're still like, oh, just come on, get your hands on the balls, get them pulled out, and it was done, and it
You're
threw
awful.
up the AFTN Derby.
Yeah.
Friday, June 14th, in Munich, Deutschland versus Ecosse. It's Germany, Scotland, and that's only going to end one way. I'm sorry, Zach, but your boys are going to take one hell of a beating.
I mean, based on their form right now, I would not be shocked by that result.
We've got a chance, at least.
Oh, you've got a chance now. Hopefully, there will be some kind of transformation. Um, yeah, it'll be fun. We should watch it together,
Yeah,
or maybe we shouldn't because then we'll not like each other. But
I'll still like you, depending on what German jersey you choose to wear, but
oh, are you gonna wear your 34 one that you keep talking about?
no, it's the 38 one.
Oh, whatever. Yeah,
That's the one I got for you that Christmas, remember? The secret gift, Secret
yeah,
Santa. Or
yeah.
was it
Anyone
Secret
listening?
Satan?
Obviously, I do not have a Nazi
No,
German era
He doesn't, but if you know where to get one, get in touch. Zachary AM on
No,
Twitter.
no, I do not want one.
Germany, though,
Oh,
in the
my.
finals for the 14th time and the 14th straight time since first getting there in 1972. They were obviously West Germany back then as well. Scotland, this is their fourth finals and their second straight.
How many times you guys won?
Let's think.
Carry the one?
We would have won in 96
Whatever.
if we hadn't missed that penalty against England.
Yeah. Well, if you had, then you would have had suffered the same fate they did.
Yeah, I was least happy after that. We've never done well in the Euro Championships.
That's the last time we won, I think, 96. Yeah, it is. Is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wow.
But we are the 3-time holders.
Yep. In a
Three
group
times winners.
with Hungary and Switzerland.
Hungary, Switzerland.
Germany, Hungary might have some interesting supporters in attendance.
Yes, the black shirts of Hungary.
Yeah, that could be an interesting one. And the Swiss, who I always mention I don't like because they threw popcorn at me in 1994. Not that I'm one to hold long grudges.
I got a message, Alain. I'm interested to see if he'll be commentating on it.
Oh. I've got friends that's going over to the tournament as well, and they're like, oh, not Germany, it's going to be tougher to get tickets.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. To have the first game of the tournament, I mean, that it's going to be great. Scotland were in pot 3. If they'd got some better results in their last 2 games, they could have been in pot 2. But we were like, we don't want to be in pot 2 because pot 3 looked really difficult. But as it's turned out, we're in a difficult group. Hungary are on a tear just now, and Switzerland.
Yeah, well, because Szoboszlai, right? Szoboszlai is a quality footballer.
Yeah. Hungary's one of those teams.
Orban, like, and Gulashi. They have a bunch of guys who are former Dead Bull players.
But you think back to the 50s and Puskás. Yeah. And like, if you were to say to folk nowadays, oh, Hungary were such a force in world football in the 50s. And it's like, Puskás, you've heard of Puskás? He played for Hungary. And they'd be like, well, what happened to them? And it's one of those things, it's like, what did happen to them? It's like Scotland. We qualified for 6 out of 7 World Cups from 74 to 98 and then just fell off the map. It's like, what happened to us? It's generations. It's like with Canada, we saw 40-year wait or 36-year wait between World Cups. Now we'll be in 2 in a row, albeit because we are hosting one. But it's whether we can now push on from that as Canadians and start to qualify. Although with the size that the tournament's getting, it would be a bit of a shock, I think, if Canada don't now regularly get to World Cups through CONCACAF. But yeah, there's some interesting groups. England, of course, as always, get a piss-easy group. Very disappointed with that. Slovenia, Denmark, Serbia. Serbia, who my complex manager's always very excited about and then gets so disappointed and let down because they just don't perform in the group stages at these tournaments as well. But yet, Group D is the one that's got Netherlands, Austria, and France. So that is a tough one.
Austria, yeah.
Yeah,
Austria's
and the
not bad.
Playoff winner of Group A as well.
Yeah.
Or the playoff thing. I'm more interested in who gets through playoff Group C, though, because you've got Luxembourg and Kazakhstan in that. And for either of them to make it would just be amazing.
But no, that group is, I forgot it was Austria. Yeah, that's going to be a tough group. You cannot sleep on Austria. They have some really quality players.
Yeah, and it's like strong ties with Germany as well. But we'll move on from that. So that is it for our international chat to kick off the show. This week we're going to be turning our attention to the domestic scene and the Whitecaps in the next part. And we're also going to kick off the next part. It's the start of our Festive 15. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, we started this last year, and it's my homage to John Peel, his Festive 50s that he did for many, many years on the BBC. Have so many of them on cassette tape, managed to download a few as well since then. And what it would be is listeners, initially it was him, but then it was listeners would vote for the top 50 tracks of the year, and they would get put together from 50 to 1. Obviously, I'm not throwing that out to the listeners because a lot of the songs that would get picked would probably get us taken down from Spotify and stuff as well as being big things. But I want to do my Festive 15. It's the top 15 tracks that were released in 2023 that has excited me the most this year. There was one, Zach, I was going to include, but I decided not to. Although it was released this year, it is a track that had been recorded earlier, which was the last ever Beatles song, Now and Then, which I don't know if you've listened to, but it's absolutely amazing.
I have not listened to it. It's on Disney Plus and stuff, and there's
it's a documentary and everything. Yeah. It would probably be in my top 5. But also, I'm pretty sure if I feature that on one of the shows, we'll get taken down for copyright because there's certain artists and labels that just trigger those things all over the place. But also, is it a 2023 song? Tough to say. There was a couple that I'd penciled down, and then when I went back to check what month they were released, it turns out they were released in 2022, so I've had to redo my list. But we are going to kick things off with the first track to kick off part 2. Now, I'm going to say it's going to be a track that some of you will really hate and find it a hard listening. So if you want to fast forward...
What's new about that?
Yeah, if you want to fast forward 3-ish minutes, you'll avoid listening to it. But we will be back with number 15 after this.
Hey, I am Axel Schuster, and I'm listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the first of our 2023 AFTN Festive 15 at number 15. Empire State Bastard. The side project from Simon from Biffy Clyro. That was the first single released by the band. I think it was released back in March from their debut album Rivers of Heresy. That was Harvest. The album reached number 3 in the Scottish album charts. Not a song for everyone there, Zach. I like it. What I will say, if you like that song or you're not sure and you want to hear more, that's one of the more accessible songs on their thrash metal hardcore album.
I was thinking the same, yeah. Definitely more accessible.
Yeah. Will another one feature in the remaining places? Spoiler, no. But they have come in, Empire State Bastard, and that kicks off AFTN's 2023 Festive 15. What is going to be number 14? Find out at the start of the next part. But for this part, we're turning our attention back to the domestic scene, Vancouver Whitecaps, and the Whitecaps news of the week. And there's stuff to talk about here, Zach.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. I am just delighted that MLS Disco have now completed their investigation into the shenanigans that happened during the Whitecaps' playoff loss at home to LAFC on November 5th. The resulting action was plentiful, and the reason that I'm saying that I was delighted by that is I should probably be speaking to Vanni this week for our usual end-of-season chat, so I'm just glad that it was all announced before we get a chance to sit down and chat to him. So there's a lot to talk about here. We'll start on the playing side. So first of all, on the LAFC side, Jesus Murillo, I'm genuinely not sure how...
He's the Colombian center back?
Yeah, the guy that rolled around like he had been shot in the box after Richard Larea brushed against him. Well, he was fined an undisclosed amount for violating the league's simulation and embellishment policy for that first half stoppage time incident with Larea. I wish they weren't undisclosed fines, though. I really genuinely wish that they were.
I think part of the problem is, Michael, the fines are so low because
that's
of
my
the
worry,
players'
yeah.
union, and they don't want to make them public. I think.
I mean, because
you'll see, as you're going to talk about in a minute later, there are times where they want you to know how much they are.
Yes. But yeah, so Murillo got the LAFC fine. All the other action went against Whitecaps players. So, Disco fined the Whitecaps and head coach Vanni Sartini for violating the mass confrontation policy for the second time this season.
When was the first time again?
Minute. I can't remember, but it's actually, I'm surprised it's just been twice. I don't mean that in any other way. Just that it just feels that you see it in every single game from teams, that for it only to be twice is quite good. It is something I hate. I mean, I will say that I'm not deflecting from this at all. Referees have a tough job.
Yeah.
And there is VAR now, and you know that VAR is going to be looking at stuff. So why crowd around the referee when there's VAR going to look at it? It just annoys me so much.
Yeah, I think, like we said on the last show, I think they need to take, or I think it was the last show, or it was a conversation I was having with someone. They need to, they have the ability to change all this with red cards, with suspensions, with fines, or even altering, upgrading the rules. And so some of this maybe what's happening in this case, maybe that'll help. But I think in the bigger picture, FIFA and the IFAB, this is something they could look at if they really truly want to change the culture in football. I don't know if I think it was last week, so I haven't talked to you about this, but Bayern suffered some poor officiating. There was some poor officiating in the Champions League this week. Mike, you might have seen it. Newcastle, in my opinion, were absolutely robbed.
Yeah.
Where the case was I believe the ball hit the defender from Newcastle, hit his body first and then his arm, which my understanding, the way the rules are worded, that means it's not a handball. And it was not given on the field, but VAR said, look at it, right? And
Yep.
then that was overturned. Well, in the Bayern game, and it was interesting, the ref for the Bayern game was, I don't know, I can't remember her name, but she was the ref of the top class ref from the Women's World Cup who did the final. She was officiating their game, and anyways, no, she didn't give the penalty on the field. VAR, no, she did give it. I think she did give it, and then VAR called her over, and it was a similar thing, except for this time it hit his arm first and then his body, and they took it away, and it was just like, what? Now the only thing I can think of is this. I don't know if it says this in the rule or this is like whatever, but I think maybe the ball didn't go past the shirt line, but his arm was not in a natural position and all the other things fit perfectly. So I felt Bayern was really, really hard done by. But again, there needs to be clarification on some of these rules, especially around handballs and whatever.
But
I will say about MLS, I was really happy to see happy to see them try and clamp down on simulation, because that will help.
Simulation, mass confrontation, it's the two big things, and it's two of the things that I hate. And at some point, whether it's like if you've done it for a third time, you're going to get docked points. It's got to be something drastic that's going to stop them doing it.
What are they, Everton?
Well, hey, do you know what? Everton are facing another points deduction as well, because there's another investigation going on.
Really?
Yeah, I just heard that on a podcast this week.
So what's going to happen to City if Everton's getting mashed up over this stuff? City's got to be...
It'll be 2050 probably by the time it gets through everything.
So they'll strip them of all their titles?
I don't know. They still don't feel they've got a case to answer for. But,
of course they don't.
Yeah. But the thing with all this, it's one of the things that I've loved watching the FA Cup this weekend, because there's no VAR. And there's been some dodgy decisions. There's been penalties that weren't given, that if there was VAR, it was going to be a clear penalty. It's like, that guy would have been offside with VAR, but it's counted. And it's nice. It's one of the reasons I like going to things like VMSL and stuff, because it's just pure football.
Yeah, but no, VMSL, if you're honest, you like it because you're the VAR.
Well, yes. There was an incident at the game today that the bench had said, "Linesman, that's offside," and he put his flag up, and I was like, that wasn't offside. And I watched it back, it's like, that's borderline. And I was going to show the guy, but he was in the middle of the game at the time. But it's a simple game. It used to be jumpers for goalposts. That's all you needed to have: a game of football, something to kick, jumpers for goalposts, you could have a game. And now it's just changing beyond. We introduced it in Scotland, and there's growing calls for it to get taken away. It's not going to get taken away once it's here. It's whether you have AI come in that makes the automated decision so the referee doesn't need to do it.
But Michael, you can still have the same level in the park now. You just need someone with their phone to video the game, and then you got VAR. And then
clubs are using these VO cameras and stuff to do all these games.
Yeah.
But back to the Whitecaps, because aside from the club and Vanni being fined for mass confrontation, due to their role in the mass confrontation, goalkeeper Yohei Takaoka, Ranko Veselinovic, Ryan Gauld and Simon Betcher have all been issued with undisclosed fines for inciting and or escalating a mass confrontation. Interestingly, nothing for Sam Adekugbe.
I think we found his new nickname, Houdini.
Yeah.
I do not understand that.
No.
Physically made contact with the official.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I'm happy for Sam, but it makes no sense.
The Disco also found the Whitecaps technical staff and players in violation of the league's policy regarding entering the field of play during a confrontational incident, which occurred in the 94th minute. Whitecaps assistant coaches Yusuf Daha and Michael D'Agostino and Whitecaps midfielders Louis Martins and Ali Ahmed and defender Javane Brown have been fined an undisclosed amount for entering the field of play in a confrontational manner. Matthias Laborda has been issued a one-match suspension and a fine for entering the field of play in a confrontational manner. So what was the difference between the others and Laborda? Laborda was right up at the ref, so I don't know if it was maybe that. I
think so. I think it was the level to which he went.
Because I forgot to mention that to you. It was a couple of weeks after it, because I started it on my PVR, and I was like, I'm going to watch that again. And I was like, I never noticed Laborda the last time. You just see this pink bib right in front of the referee, and I'm like, oh, he's going to get done for that.
Oh, yeah.
It's no surprise. I think we all knew it was coming. I think Laborda maybe got the toughest end of it. At least D'Agostino and everyone else gets given a one-match suspension. Otherwise, we'd be struggling for that first match.
And Sam got the lenient end of the...
Yeah. Well, considering we were on that call with Sam, and Har's like, what punishment are you expecting? So,
and he's like, I'm expecting an email.
Yeah. He didn't get it. Maybe they lost his email address. I don't know. So, I mean, that was it. There's nothing else to talk about, really. Was there? Oh, no, there was, because there was a question of what was going to happen to Vanni. So before we get to Vanni, the day before, Matt Miazga from FC Cincinnati got fined 3 games for entering the officials' room because he wasn't happy with...
He didn't enter the room, did he?
He tried to get into the room.
Right, he was outside yelling at them.
Yeah, he tried to get in, it's what they were saying, because he was querying some yellow cards that was issued after the game. So we'll come to that in the next part when we talked about Cincinnati. But when that was handed down, I had tweeted out I was expecting 6 to 10 games for Vanni. I've the whole way along I've said minimum of 6, because the CSA rules are if a player does that, it's an automatic 6-game ban. Yeah. Obviously, this isn't CSA, but that's kind of a standard. And the reason I thought 6 is not that he deserved 6, but it was for accumulation. So he gets 1 for coming onto the pitch, 1 for the gestures, 1 for returning back to the pitch, 1 for kicking the board, 1 for post-game comments, 1 for maybe another post-game comment. Add it all together and it does start to add up. I felt.
Except for the post-game comments is more, for me, more problematic than most of those things combined. But maybe I'm wrong. But
the thing is, so many folk have seen this and they're thinking he's got the 6-game ban for the post-game comments, but it's not. It's the accumulation of everything.
But that's weird from the league. Like, it doesn't.
I'd heard murmurs a couple of weeks ago that it was going to be at least 6, and the other thing I'd heard is there was a debate whether he was going to be allowed to be part of Whitecaps activities,
right? Or
was it going to be totally different thing, but like a Bruce Arena situation where you're not allowed anywhere near the team? Yeah. So thankfully it isn't that. But we've now got the crazy situation that he's going to be banned for the first 6 MLS matches, but he's going to then be in charge for Champions Cup, and depending on when the Canadian Championship starts, that as well. So we're going to have different folk on the bench.
But that happens all the time when you have a manager suspended, right?
Yeah. The other thing as well, though, is with BC Place, he could technically sit right in the front row of the stand and just yell.
But is that against the spirit of the thing? Because I know, like before, remember Mourinho? You know the Mourinho story?
Yeah, there's spirit, but it's like you're not breaking any rules.
But you remember the Mourinho story,
right?
Oh,
yeah,
Where he's like in the locker room where he wasn't supposed to be, and then he jumped in the dirty laundry bin or whatever.
Because you're not going to have like headsets and stuff as well.
But that's the thing. I think MLS will make it clear to them what's allowed and what's not allowed, no?
Well, I'm gonna ask Vanni that. The other thing as well is someone posed. Oh, next time someone speaks to Vanni to ask him this, I'm going to ask him this. Now, as a coach, he's going to have a set answer, but how much does having a coach not there actually affect anything? Because then you kind of question on how important is a coach.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to answer, that's pretty important. Because
Like,
otherwise,
well, you shouldn't get yourself suspended for 6 games.
no, but I mean, what's he going to say? No, it doesn't matter if I'm on the bench or not.
I know. I'm just curious to see how he answers that. So basically, the 6 games, it was an automatic 1-match suspension for being sent off in the game. So he's got the 5 because he violated league policies for entering the field of play in a confrontational manner, public criticism. You have to feel the gestures as well, and maybe coming back out as well. But it's not just the 6 games. He was also issued a $20,000 fine, not as Yahoo Sports put in their article, because someone sent me this, a $200,000 fine, which would, I think, be his whole salary. But yeah, it's a $20,000 fine, which is hefty. He must also complete a league-approved behavioural assessment and comply with any recommended treatment. Sartini will serve his 1-match suspension for the red card during Vancouver's first match of 2024 and then following the next 5 MLS matches. Based on his compliance with any recommended treatment programmes, Sartini may petition for a reduction of his suspension. So it could be reduced, Zach, and I feel the best ways that it could be reduced is Vanni just needs to show them his Italian passport and goes, I'm Italian, this is how we are.
Yeah, good luck with that.
It's an injustice.
I know in this, most of the fans, they want accountability for the process of evaluation and or consequences for the referee. And I think that's a valid thing, that maybe there's more transparency when it comes to that. But, I mean, say what you want about the referee and his performance. Vanni's accountable for his actions, and I think all of them were...
Oh, he admits that, though, as well.
Were quite appalling, and I think actually 6 games is quite light, personally.
I've had a couple of folks say that. The general consensus is it was too much, but especially kind of what I was expecting.
Especially, Michael, if one is for this and one is for that and one is for that, like that's... I think it's light if that is the case. If that is the reality.
Well, I mean, I'm making light that he just has to show his passport, maybe say he'll cut back on the espressos and things. But like in all seriousness, what does this mean for Vanni's future? Because he's a guy on the sidelines that behaves like I would, but I am not an MLS qualified head coach. Can he control his behaviour? It's like we had this discussion about Lucas Cavallini on the pitch last year. Can Cava control how he is? Can Vanni control himself on the sideline? What happens if he has another big blowout like this?
Well, isn't this why he's doing all this course?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I'm assuming it's like an anger management course. That's what it reads like.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, how it's worded as opposed to how Matt Miazga's is worded, which we'll come to in the next part as well. But, I mean, what will it mean for the team at the start of the season? He'll have them set up. Michael D'Agostino's then going to be on the bench, and he's been in charge of the team before.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be that big.
Suspended.
I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, Michael, because he can do the training. He can be with the squad. And I think it'll be more of a narrative for media and fans than it will be actually impactful for the team.
Probably. So we'll see how that plays out. There has been some other Whitecaps news this week.
More news?
Yeah. The Caps confirmed on Friday, ahead of MLS's deadline to exercise
another big announcement?
Contract options.
Another big announcement, right?
It was an announcement that there was no announcement. I kind of felt. Basically, the club will not exercise midfielder Russell Teibert's 2024 contract option. However, discussions are ongoing. The club is also continuing discussions with on-loan wing-back Richie Larea, as well as Sebastian Berhalter and Junior Hoylett, all three of whom are out of contract at the end of the year. For Teibert, there's no surprise. They were never taking up his 2024 option. This is a player that made a guaranteed $449,375 in 2023. He's 30, soon to become 31. He made just 7 MLS appearances this year. None of them starts. He played a total of 147 minutes, no goals, no assists. He played just 2 minutes over the last 12 games, 30 minutes in 2 League Cup games, and had 3 starts in the Canadian Championship. He's made 253 MLS appearances since 2011, 4 goals, 21 assists during that time.
3 goals were in one season, right?
Yeah. And most of those assists as well were in that one season. He was rewarded this year by making his 300th overall appearance. But when you break the numbers down like that, especially how much he contributed, there was no way they were going to pick his option up. But obviously, there's still a stumbling point as to, do they bring him back on a reduced deal? A, is Teibert willing to take a reduced deal? I mean, if he's not going to get that money anywhere else. Does he feel, do I just hang my boots up now? Or does he drop down to CPL, USL? Does he get a St. Ricketts style 1-year deal where he's on a reduced salary? We talked about this when it was announced a couple of weeks ago, and then gets a job in the front office. I still think that's the most likely. And if you can get him for, I don't know, 125, 150 tops, ideally even less than 100, but give him a front office deal as well, I think that's palatable to me, because you've got a depth player that you can rely on. But equally, there's going to be way better depth players out there for that kind of money.
Yeah. First off, I agree with you. As a wonderful fellow Brit once said, no alarms and no surprises, for sure, with not taking up his option. But I don't know. I think there would be more. I think there would be more respect for his decision making if he did choose to go and play in a different league, whether that be CPL, USL, maybe if it was a possibility, Europe somewhere or whatever. I think more people would be like intrigued and want to follow that. You know what I mean?
Well, but you think of the potential that he had as well. Like, what happened? He's just stagnated. Well, and then has gone backwards.
He was converted from like a central attacking midfielder to an attacking winger to a left back to a center mid. Like, he's gone through lots of change, which is not abnormal.
More playing position changes and haircut changes. And that's a lot.
No, he's had more haircut changes. But the caliber player, it's not the same caliber player, but it reminds me of kind of what happened with Bastian Schweinsteiger at Bayern Munich. When he came through as a youngster from the residency, he was put out on the left wing. And he had some success there, both at club level and from the national team. And then he also did cover a little bit at left back before it wasn't until I think it was 2010 when Louis van Gaal came in, and Louis van Gaal said, "No, you're a central midfielder. You're like a 6 or 6/8. That's where you need to be. We can use your ball winning, but more so your passing and your vision and whatever, and your leadership from the middle of the park." And it like transformed him. And obviously he was a massive part of the 2014 World Cup winning side. But so players go through that. I'll have to say players go through that. But his process, unlike Schweinsteiger, I would say, neutered his offensive capabilities and his qualities. And so I think it would be awesome if he went somewhere else and either was able to rediscover those or put in a situation where he could use those more, or even if he was a defensive holding midfielder, but was someone who was able to help dictate the tempo of matches and of how a side plays. I think there'd be a lot of like respect for him in doing that. I don't see that happening though. I don't. No. I really see him either like hanging it up or him doing like you're saying, like trying to stay here on a lower contract or stay here in some hybrid situation or whatever. But
there's been a lot of hate online for him this week, which I some of it has crossed the line, some of it is a little bit
really
overblown.
What did people say that was bad? I didn't see this.
Just like folk just don't feel he has any value whatsoever. Now, if you can get him on a really low contract, he has great value because he's MLS experience. And the problem is he isn't flashy. He doesn't get the assists.
Again, he's not flashy now, but he was back in the day.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're talking about Bastian Schweinsteiger. He is the bastion. Like his role is as a bastion. It's like defensive midfielder is the bastion of attack. It's the thing that thwarts attacks, or how it's meant to be. But by that position, you don't get lots of goals. You don't get lots of assists. You don't look exciting. And I think that is something that has been kind of his weight to carry as well. And then folk use that to say, well, you're not getting much out of him. And I've been guilty for that. And I still think we can get better than him. But he is somebody that's always been reliable. That if you're this sounds awful. If you're desperate and you've got a number of players out, he's a guy that you can bring in and you know what you're getting from him.
But here's the thing: you can be that kind of player and be a world beater, right? Like,
well, Mati Laba, Andres Kubis, two Whitecaps examples.
I was thinking on a different plane, but like,
well, I'm trying to keep it on at least
Claude
Makelele
level. Right? Claude Makelele and like Didier Deschamps, right? They were like called the water carriers, but they were also players who would contribute going forward a little bit, or with Makelele more with passing than shooting for sure. But Dave Champ would score some goals. Whereas the problem with Rusty is that the reason why I think there's some hate for him that you mentioned is because the way he played, it wasn't like he doesn't have the flash. It was like everyone who can play. It's like he became June Marcus Davidson. Where
it was all passing the ball back. Yeah,
he always passes backwards or to the side. And again, part of that I would say is how much of that is tactical coaching or whatever, as opposed to him who he is, because we know it wasn't who he was.
No,
right? So no. I think it got coached out of him a little bit.
You've also got the situation this year where you've got Sebastian Berhalter, who's similar position and has come in and done better and shows way more in an attacking thing.
And exactly done what you need a 6 to do, to pop up every so often and be able to shoot from distance and shoot in a way that teams are going to have to respect that. And so it creates space for other players and opportunities for other players because they see you coming through or making a late run or whatever.
I mean, if they can get the deal done with Berhalter, which I really hope they do, then for me, they don't even need to have Rusty as the depth, and I would like him to move on. Now, another option could be, and he might not want to do this because we've never seen him drop down to this level before, but like sign an MLS Next Pro deal and be the guy that leads those players through or something. I can't see that happening.
I would be stunned.
He never wanted to play WFC 2 when he wasn't getting games, so
exactly, yeah.
But it's an interesting one. I just don't know what he does next. And if he hadn't been here for as long as he's been, the decision would be easy. He'd be cast aside. They wouldn't even be having discussions with him.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, if that's the only reason that you're still having the discussions, cut it loose. Let it go.
It'll be interesting how it plays out, though. I know some of the scuttlebutt used to be that he was Bobby's link to the locker room. And so he had that connection to Bobby. And that maybe also contributed to the part of his longevity within the club.
Well, there's a lot of folk feel that he was one of the people that started that whole meltdown in 2018 at the end of season press conference.
Yeah. Oh,
and that was
if now publicly Bobby's role is diminished, although when he tells it to people privately, he's doing the same thing he's always done. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Rusty, and if that is in any way any indication to the influence that Bobby still wields or doesn't, or that might be all wrong and there's no correlation.
We'll see what happens. I've always said, if the Whitecaps have Russell Teibert as a starter or close to being a starter, they're not going to go anything because the league's changed so much.
Well, and this was the first year it wasn't. Yeah,
we've moved so far away from that it's good. And I wish Rusty well. I just think for him, for the club, the best thing would be, if he wants to still play, go somewhere else. If he's happy to hang up the boots and take a front office role, he would be an asset to that front office. What he could do in the community, he knows the club, he loves the city. He could do so much in that aspect. It's whether he feels he's got more in him or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to close this part off, just some dates to watch out for that's upcoming for the Whitecaps. December 11th, the trade window opens at 6 a.m. Pacific time for trades within the league. Be interesting to see.
Do you think Whitecaps are going to be active in that?
I don't know. Vanni always talks about there's always interest in the Whitecaps players. Robbo always talked about that as well. I mean, there's some players you'd love to make a move for. We might have to move something out in return, Russell Teibert. But I don't know, because it really... The big thing I want is an experienced centre-back, that if you can get someone from within the league. December 12th is the end-of-year waivers. Can't see that being very eventful. December 13th, free agency opens. Can't see that being very eventful for the Whitecaps. As we talked about last year, tax implications make it very hard for the Whitecaps to get these free agents, because they can basically make 20 to 25% more if they sign for teams in certain states, because of tax stuff. It's crazy. Re-entry draft, stage 1 is December 14th, with stage 2 a week later. And then the big one, the MLS draft, December 19th.
Is this the first year it's been held in the year before? It's always been in January.
No, last year it was held in December as well. Yeah.
Okay.
It's because everything's starting early. Because depending on... because also in amongst there, I should mention, December 13th is the draw for the Champions Cup.
Oh, right.
So depending on what happens in that for anyone that doesn't know, there's 2 levels. So half the teams will start at the start of February, and then the other half will start 2 weeks later. So depending on when the Whitecaps get drawn, if they're in the first half of teams that are going to kick things off, they will basically be in the second week of January for pre-season training.
Oh, right. Because I've seen that, different teams make their announcements about their squad updates or whatever. But the actual lists for the re-entry draft stuff, does that come after the free agency, like the day before, or like one of those lists comes out?
I think it'll come out before, but there's been players that's been on it that can take themselves off it. And, yeah. Right.
Because we've had that's been fun in the past, looking at those lists, and you'd be like, okay, who would you want in Vancouver? Or
if anything does come out before the next week's show, we'll try and cast our eyes over it, but I'm not 100% sure it will, to be honest. But yeah, there's still a lot of busy MLS stuff to come. We will be having our end-of-year chats with Vanni and for Axel, either both for our Christmas special, or maybe we'll have Vanni one week and then Axel the other. Vanni he's been over in Italy, seeing his family and seeing his grandma, which was nice. So he's back for a little bit, and then he's going away again after that. And then we'll speak to Axel, but I might wait to speak to Axel if he's still in town, which he should be, until after the MLS draft, just so we can get everything covered with him. But that is it for the Whitecaps chat. We are going to be continuing the MLS chat next, as the MLS Cup final has been set, after we hear song number 14 in our Festive 15.
Hey, I'm Julian Gressel, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Can't wait to enjoy me, so you take what you can
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's number 14 in AFTN's Festive 15 for 2023. From Austin, Texas, it's the third track from their debut full-length album. The band is called Die Spitz. The song is called Groping Dogs, Gushing Blood, and that's taken from their album Teeth. Very good band. Toyed with making a second song of theirs in the Festive 15. Haven't had them in mind for an Artist of the Month as well, but since we're stopping that, this is the chance to hear them. Great band, 4-piece girl band from Austin in Texas, and they've got that Riot Girl, that 90s sound. Because you know, I've told you before how much I love Courtney Love and Hole and Bikini Kill and all the Riot Girl stuff from the 90s. This band, Die Spitz, and another band called Shitfire, who, spoiler, will also feature in the Festive 15 this year, capture that sound fantastically. And it goes into what Caitlin always says, all my bands sound alike. Die Spitz from Austin. Austin, who didn't have a good MLS season this year, surprising.
No, they did not.
No, but you know, two teams have, LAFC, Columbus Crew, and those two teams will be battling it out next Saturday for the 2023 MLS Cup. It's all set. We're going to just chat a little bit in this part about both of the conference finals. I know you couldn't get to watch them live. Did you watch the highlights? Hopefully you have.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay,
for sure.
That's good. Well, we'll start off in the East. First up, the Ohio Derby. FC Cincinnati, Supporters Shield winners, hosted their cross-state rivals Columbus Crew in front of over 25,000 fans. What an amazing atmosphere. It was just fantastic to see the stadium packed out. And what a game as well. But before we get into the match, I want to revisit something we mentioned in the last part. Mm-hmm. One player missed the match, which was FC Cincinnati centre-back and MLS Defender of the Year, Matt Miazga. Miazga was handed a 3-game suspension by MLS's Disco this week, issued an undisclosed fine as well for his misconduct following Cincinnati's match against the Red Bulls on November 4th. Additionally, and this is why I said it's interesting how this is worded compared to Vanni's, Miazga will undergo a behavioural assessment through the Substance Abuse and Behavioural Health Programme. And may petition for a reduction in suspension based on continued commitment and compliance with any recommended treatment programmes. So again, that might just be simple as anger management, but it's just weird that it mentions the substance abuse part. It's weird that was in that and it wasn't in Vanni's. Because when that first got announced, there's a guy, MLS Ref Stats, who has a Twitter account and he's very good at answering things to do with refereeing. I think he is a referee. I went, is that normal wording for these things? And he's like, no, it's not. So I don't know.
They want to emphasize it for some reason.
Yeah. As soon as you see that, your mind does go down that route of, what are they saying caused that? But it might just be anger management or just that they feel he's just a loose cannon or whatever. But the suspension will be served during the remainder of Cincinnati's games this season and into next. So that was just, as it turned out, the one game, which was the Eastern Conference final, and the other two will now be served next year. Now,
there'll be league games, right? Not any CONCACAF Cup games, right?
No, so it's pure regular season games. So he is said to have angrily either entered or approached, banged on the door, yelled the officials' dressing room.
So most people here want to know, how did he get to Tim Ford's dressing room at BC?
That was that, and that was interesting. But then the next day, things took a little bit of a twist.
Yes,
You saw the statement that the MLS Players Association issued.
Yeah, very interesting.
It is, and this could roll on. Now, it obviously has not helped Miazga manage to play in this game at the weekend against Columbus, but maybe it will get stuff reduced for next year. But the MLSPA issued a statement saying that they condemn the behaviour of the Professional Soccer Referees Association, the PSRA, who is the organisation that was wanting firm action against Vanni. They tweeted that out. And certain PSRA members with regard to the incident. They said both the match report approved by the officials and the statements released by the PSRA regarding the incident contained material falsehoods. And since then, the PSRA has not only failed to correct these falsehoods, its president has continued to repeat them publicly. To respect the integrity of the disciplinary process, they didn't want to comment till afterwards. But they've said video footage was made available and reviewed during the disciplinary process that confirm that statements made by the referees and the PSRA were false. Unfortunately, that evidence does not appear to have been appropriately factored into MLS's decisions. So,
is this specifically to do with him entering the room or not?
I think it is, because I'm sure I had seen that he'd entered the room, but then you were saying to me, no, he hadn't.
Yeah, well, that's what I heard later, but yeah.
So that is interesting. It also says MLS has not publicly condemned the PSRA for their irresponsible actions and false statements.
Yeah, and again, of course, people in Vancouver jumped all over saying because they want accountability for referees and their discipline or their how their errors are being evaluated, or what measures did they have to take maybe to players and coaches are being asked to do behavioral treatment.
Yeah,
our referees asked to be doing.
That was the thing as well. So many folk after the Vanni thing said, so what punishment has there been for Tim Ford? And as far as we know, none, because he was doing VAR last week.
Right, he missed one round of games and then he was in the VAR room.
Yeah, but then he wasn't in this round of games. So it's like they're not in every round of games. So by the looks of it, none. Also, like you were joking, how did he get into Tim Ford's dressing room at BC Place? How did he get to the referee's locker room at Red Bull Arena is a thing, because MLSPA said that stadium security had a breakdown that allowed that incident to occur. And where's the punishment there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are some behind the scenes issues there, because I remember when I used to attend MLS matches in person that are not in other cities. They have a person who is their sole, like a security person. Their sole job is to look after the referees. So we used to know one of the guys who did that in at BC Place, and so we would talk to him.
Slip him a $5, get let into the room with your baseball bat.
No.
Nobody saw anything.
No, Michael. But no, they have people
with a flag.
They have people. It's both security and I think logistical as well. Just there to like support them and whatever, look after them and that kind of stuff. So to me, it's kind of it's interesting that there was a breakdown and that maybe someone wasn't doing their job, or some measures were not taken or available or didn't happen or whatever. So it would be interesting to know what those were and how, and the reason why and all that kind of stuff. But you hope at some point there will be a clarification over what was actually false that was put out that was never correct. Because I think that is significant. Not to get all fake news, whatever, blah blah blah, but if there was false information given, then it needs to be correct.
Yeah, it does, and it also, the players and the supporters, the trust that they now have in referees is going to be even less.
Yeah, it totally erodes trust for sure.
It's just a very interesting twist, and it's one certainly to keep an eye on. But it meant Miazga missed Cincinnati's game against Columbus.
I'm sure they were fine. I'm sure they were fine without him.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were coasting. Everything was good.
They were coasting.
Yeah, it's that old chant 2-0, and you fucked it up, and they did big time, because Oh, yeah. It finished FC Cincinnati 2, Columbus Crew 3. What a game.
Yeah, it was
Worthy of a conference final
and a
and
derby.
a local
State
derby. Oh.
Yeah.
Mo Farsi handed
Yeah.
his third straight start over Julian Gressel.
But
Although
this time,
Julian Gressel maybe
Yeah.
had the answer to that. Yeah. I mean, when the trade from the Whitecaps to Columbus was happening for Gressel, I'd said, yeah, getting some money for him would be great. I would also take some money in Mo Farsi in return, because I wasn't really sure that he was going to factor in to what Columbus were looking to do there. But Wilfried Nancy had a plan, and Nancy we trust, clearly. I mean, Farsi last year, well, first of all, we spoke a little bit about him last week, but what a rise. PLSQ to CPL to MLS, Next Pro to MLS. Last year, named to the 2022 MLS Next Pro Best 11. Signed last summer his MLS deal, and he's just pushed on since then. And we won't go over what we went on about last week, but I mean, it's a great rise. He bet on himself, and now to get 3 straight starts in the playoffs is tremendous.
Yeah, and he's contributed in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Which has been even more significant.
I mean, he was taken off in this one because they needed to get something going. They were 2 down. They had to get some kind of fresh spark on. And
it was interesting because it seemed like there was this falling out between Nancy and Gressel over the Gressel, not getting the starts and the time or whatever. But whether it was, Nancy, swallowing his pride, or Nancy just saying this is the right time or whatever, as a coach, he looks like a genius, because Gressel really helped turn the tide in this game.
After their win, I saw a lot of chatter about this on Twitter, on Discord, and on Reddit as well. And it's not something we looked at last week when we looked at potential national team managers. If Wilfried Nancy, say, goes on and lifts the cup with Columbus, would he be open to taking the national team job? I wouldn't say no to it.
I saw some more chatter from this on X or whatever, or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it.
I still call it Twitter.
And there's some people saying, why would he leave when he's in such a good run at a club level to go to a national team that has, let's call it issues.
Yeah, I mean, the lure of 2026 is always there. Yeah, that's the thing. You're guaranteed you're going to be at a World Cup.
And despite the issues, you have the opportunity to coach some quite outstanding, especially attacking players. Which he's a very attacking coach.
Yeah, so. If you win the MLS Cup, it's hard to push on from that.
Yeah,
you either win another, or you go on a big run in the Champions Cup.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's like he might think, well, I've done this now.
Yeah,
let's look to the next thing. But they will get a chance after this victory. But it certainly didn't look that way, because Cincinnati went into the break 2 goals up. 14th minute, Brandon Vasquez, nice footwork in the box after Cincy capitalised on a poor Columbus giveaway. And then 2 minutes into first half stoppage time, Luciano Acosta, MVP, showed exactly why. What a finish. It was a great goal all round, because the little back heel on the free kick to Acosta and just curled it through. How it got through all those players, I don't know. You'd think someone would have stuck a leg out at some point.
It was one of those goals where you're like, he meant that as a cross, but it was, or he meant for, I think he ideally meant for someone to get on the end of it, but it was so well hit that the fact that no one did still meant that it, kissed the post and went in. Yeah. And I'll say again, who wouldn't want Luciano Acosta on their team?
Who wouldn't? Do you think we could maybe make a trade for him?
Well, I don't see that.
Swap deal with Russell Teibert?
Well, I mean, that sounds fair.
I'd take that if I was Columbus. It's like, yeah. So, I mean, it looked a tall order for Columbus, especially the way the game had been going. But you kind of felt they're just going to go for it in the second half. And if they can get the next goal, it's very much game on. But Cincinnati should have put the game to bed. Schulte,
Yes, they should very much have.
Bupenza, 4 or 5 minutes at the start of the second half. Brilliant save by Schulte, who came up with a number of big saves, by the way.
Again, two rounds in a row.
Yeah. And then Columbus started to come into it. 69th minute, Bupenza had the ball in the back of the net to potentially make it 3-0. But right away I saw it and I was like, oh, it's a clear hand ball.
Yeah. That's the one, the rebounded, deflected off his hand, right? Yeah.
I mean, you could see it live, though. You could see that his hand pushed it in the net.
I could feel, it was funny because as I was watching the highlight, I could just feel like Joe Deasy's blood boil, the memories of Thierry Henry.
Oh.
And like no, the no VAR, that was one of the moments that led to VAR, right?
When you were watching the highlights, did you know the results? Did you know who'd won?
Yes, I did actually. Which was unfortunate.
Yeah, because if you didn't, this would have been one hell of a game to watch play out.
Well, no, when it started, I was just I was like, wait, who won? I was like, wait, this is a massive comeback.
So 75th minute, Columbus pull one back. Alves Powell own goal after turning a Gressel cross into his own net. I think Gressel was offside. It was very close. And they did a review and he was given it. But it's one of those ones, if the lines were there, I think it would have been an offside one.
Yeah. I mean,
10 minutes later, though, 2-2, Diego Rossi. And again, this one started from a Gressel cross into the box as well. That delivery that we saw with the Whitecaps, I missed that. He was just pinpoint for the Caps. He was pinpointing this game as well. Switched to the other side at one point as well, but it's 2-2. And at that stage, the only team you thought was going to win it was Columbus. They just had their tails up, and Cincinnati just looked like they didn't know what hit them.
And Gressel would get involved in the third.
Yeah.
He was involved. His cross was like the beginning of the play. It was, I think the goal happened like 3 or 4 or 5 passes.
Yeah,
later.
he's not going to get an assist for it, but he was involved.
No.
But the winner.
And he also, after the goal went in, did he sort of look back at the bench?
I didn't notice that.
Maybe he was looking at a teammate or something.
He might just be reading stuff into it now.
Yeah.
But 114th minute, Christian Ramirez. If you're Cincinnati, if you're Pat Noonan watching that defending, you're like, how do you let that happen?
Yeah.
Towards the end of a conference final. Cucho was allowed to ghost into the back. Yeah. Absolute free header across goal. And Ramirez just puts it away. Totally unselfish as well.
Totally.
Cucho, he could easily have gone for goal there.
Kirk was watching it with me, and he was just commenting on the poor quality of defending on that play.
Oh, it was really bad. Like, talking of unselfishness, I don't know if this made the highlights or not. There was a chance in the first half when it was 1-0. Columbus were on the break. Rossi had it. And he had an open man to his right. And if he'd just played the ball, it would have been probably the equaliser. But he went for the shot and cut out to his outside and then ran out of room.
I can't remember if that was in what I saw, but...
It's kind of stuff that annoys you because it's like, you can't be selfish. You've got a wide open guy. And
but going back,
trailing.
We're talking about their defense. I mean, it was so costly to not have Miazga, right? Like,
yeah, great season for Cincinnati, and the atmosphere in the stadium. The stadium, I haven't seen lots of games in the East the last couple of seasons, and I always forget when I see Cincinnati Stadium how nice it is. It's so compact. It's loud. The fans are right on the pitch. I was watching it jealous in the first half because I was thinking to myself, what you would give for a stadium like that here in Vancouver, whether it's the Whitecaps, whether it's Vancouver FC, just somebody that's got that stadium where you're right, soccer specific, right on the pitch, got that atmosphere, roofs. Yeah, I was quite jealous watching that.
Has that ship sailed for the Whitecaps?
I don't know whether it has, because I haven't heard anything for about the last 2 years in this, but the rumour had been Hastings Park, stadium get built where the racecourse was, and it would be a soccer-specific stadium, ready for 2026, when the lease is up at BC Place. They're going to have to get on with that quick if that was going to happen. It could still be done.
Yeah, it could.
But I don't know. I'd like to see them move on. I genuinely would love them to have a soccer-specific stadium.
Yeah.
We
That would
won't
be-
get into Vancouver FC just now as well, but it's like they need a chance. Like, can you imagine how different that stadium would be if they'd been given land and said, build what you want?
Oh, I
Oh,
can
yeah,
imagine.
you do know because we've seen the plans.
I've seen, I think, a few different versions of.
Yeah, that was a bad example then. But I mean, I'd love the Whitecaps to get a stadium like that. It would just be so good for them. And you've still got BC Place for big games, for big celebrations and stuff as well. Because it's going to be interesting 2026. Someone had messaged me. I keep forgetting to reply to him because I get all these emails in my AFTN account, and I'm on all the CPL and the MLS mailing lists,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it takes like in a day something can come in the morning, and it's about 50 or 60 emails down by the afternoon, and I've forgotten about it. So someone had messaged asking about how behind BC Place is for 2026 because things should be starting. They should be starting to look at things just now.
Are they behind?
I don't know. I need to look into that, but it's going to be interesting what happens in 2026 because the Whitecaps aren't going to get in the stadium for a big chunk of that. Whether
sounds like-
MLS maybe isn't on at that time or not, I don't know.
Also, it sounds like you need a personal assistant, Michael.
It would help, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're happy to work for digestives, give me a call. The second conference final wasn't as a classic a game.
It wasn't, but it was an occasion. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
it was entertaining in bits, especially the start. The tifo, or can you? Well, not really. Can you
Yes,
call
it
it
is.
tifo?
Yeah, wasn't there? There was an overhead, wasn't there? Like of the logo.
Oh, I haven't seen the actual banner. I've only seen the flares.
Well, no. If you look closely, Mike, I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen the beginning, but I only seen the one clip on Twitter. I looked for other ones. I haven't seen anything come up on YouTube yet, but it looks like there's an overhead in the middle of the section. That's the LAFC logo.
Oh,
And then the flares there's about a dozen flares on each side of it, which yes cost quite the
it has.
furor
Yeah.
in the community.
Now, it's
Because
interesting that you say Führer because, and I won't make any German jokes, but I was having this discussion with Caitlin because here you say Führer, but in the UK we say Furore.
let's go with furor.
I like,
Furore.
yeah, Furore is better for you to say.
As soon as I said it, I was like, oh, he's gonna say something.
The flare display, it was striking, but
Yeah, it
it
was great.
also delayed the start of the match for all the smoke.
Yeah, that's whatever. That's not to me a non-issue. I mean, maybe Apple TV doesn't like that, but
Yeah,
we've
had these issues recently in Scotland as well because the Rangers fans did it at a game which was absolutely spectacular.
Are you saying something nice about Rangers?
Sometimes I do. I mean, they did an absolutely amazing job. The Motherwell fans did it as well, but it's caused backlash as well because some folk that were asthmatic were like, the smoke's affected me and it delayed the game and
The problem in MLS and what most supporters or supporters groups that you might have seen commenting on it is that it's been a no-go in MLS. Like it's in their code of conduct that flares are not allowed.
Yep.
Smoke devices of certain kinds within certain regulations within certain
if you've got
stadiums.
the buckets, if you've got the
Well,
procedures in place.
Yeah, it's not that simple, but yes. So I think I don't know if they've only used the smoke devices before because some people on Twitter were talking about like, oh, they've done this before, and I was like, I definitely don't remember it on this scale, like a couple dozen at a time.
Yeah, because you would.
I
Because
would,
this
yeah.
was like, wow.
Yeah, but here's my take. It looked great. I think it's great. But it would be nicer if some I'm honestly, I would be okay if it was like, yeah, they got permission from the fire marshal and whatever, like, or their, whatever, like, or their club said, this is cool, or the club said, we don't care, we want you to do it, or whatever, or they said, we're doing it, we don't care.
We'll pick up the fine.
We'll pick up the fine, whatever. But MLS is going to have to come out and say, something about it because.
Well, it's like, do they use it in their advertising, because they've been very good at that over the years. Oh, we don't want this, but here, look.
If the league doesn't, the LAFC will.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
here's the thing, Michael. You and I have actually, I have friends who, in 2011, chose to do a flare display at an away match at Salt Lake City, and they were like banned for like a year, or they were banned from away travel, or they were banned from that stadium, or whatever. Like there was like significant consequences for it, right? It wasn't quite.
It wasn't that time we did it in Abbotsford.
No, that was smoke. That was not a flare.
Oh.
The orange canister,
Yeah.
that was smoke device that we were testing. So like, yeah, I get people's frustration. Though, I mean, people are essentially saying, "Oh, look, an LA club gets to do whatever they want, and everyone else has to play by the rules." That is a valid conversation, and it'll be interesting to see what an MLS chooses to do. My perspective is, I thought it looked great, and I hope that things move forward in that way. I do recognize that displays like that can have a safety risk, and obviously you want to mitigate any potential harm or whatever, and you want those type of things to be done as safely as possible. But I personally like them, so
I like them. I think they look spectacular. My only issue that I do have with it is if you know that they're not allowed, you might have a ticket for that section and you think, yeah, I know what goes on in this section, everything's fine, I'm happy with it. But like genuinely, you could be asthmatic or have a health issue that something like that could really affect you. And if you'd known that was happening, I'll buy a ticket for another part of the stadium. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to do stuff like that, folk need to be aware that is going to possibly happen. So I think make their own choice as to whether they want to be in that section.
I think their supporters and the club's response to that would be that section is known for, has smoke all the time anyways. There is smoke in that section of I guess you would say a different variety, but there is smoke. So if you're asthmatic, you would probably avoid that anyway. So wouldn't be like in this case, it wouldn't be like an unknown occurrence for that area. But it also the volume that they did, and the volume they've done at least a couple other times, has been so significant that it carries to other parts of the stadium. So you might not be safe if you're on, anywhere. I mean,
near. We've seen it at Swangard with Whitecaps back in the day.
The Portland playoff game when Gersh scored.
Yeah,
and then there was so much smoke they stopped the game, didn't they?
Yeah, they stopped the Whitecaps TSS game last year at this season at Swangard as well, after TSS had opened the scoring. It was a Wednesday night game, and then the Whitecaps were like, yeah, we can't see. The Whitecaps had stopped and TSS were still playing. They're like, we can see. We know where the goal is.
But that in that case, that's a referee decision, right?
Yeah, he did stop it at the end, but it didn't. Yeah, it's something that, as you say, it's going to be interesting to see the repercussions in this. I think there'll be a fine, and I think LAFC more than happily pick that up because they've pleased their fans. They've had something that will go around the world. Because the Rangers one went around the world. I saw it all over the place in different ultra groups from around the world tweeting it and stuff as well. Oh yeah,
LAFC. I mean, like what, 1-2 owners will look in their couch and find some change and pay the fine. So it's not an issue for them. But that, again, that's where it becomes who's doing what and how and why and what are, like, if it's not, I mean, because there's even talking, I think I've said this before, in the Bundesliga, flares are not allowed. So when supporters do them, their clubs get fined. And one of the theories is that the only reason the DFL, the German Football League, doesn't sanction them is because now this is a legitimate revenue stream for the league. So they know it's going to happen and whatever. Instead of saying, okay, it can happen under these, I've heard some people basically say it's not a liability thing. It is a legitimate, significant amount of revenue they get every year. Well, so why would they stop that?
With all the fines MLS will get for this and all the stuff with the Whitecaps and Vanni, maybe they can put it towards goal line technology.
Oh, that would be nice. There's a good
if
cause.
We saw that the money went somewhere, it'd be like, yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
The match itself, I mean, it was never going to live up to the first game. It wasn't a classic. The defending champs, though, are through to get the chance to retain their title. The Whitecaps are the only team to have scored against LAFC in the playoffs. 3 straight clean sheets now for Max Kripal.
Well, and they're one of a few teams, and he made at least one huge save that I saw.
I mean, Houston dominated the play, but LAFC just looked far more dangerous.
The Whitecaps are also one of the few teams to win away to LA this year, right? Is
that
not correct?
Yeah.
Houston was not a, how should we put it, not a sexy Western Conference finalist.
No.
I know they do have some quality players and whatever, especially I think, Herrera probably stands out. But they put in a respectable performance, but I don't think there's anyone anywhere in North America who's surprised at the result.
No. Hollingshead in the 44th of the opener. Franco Escobar on goal in the 80th.
And he scored with his butt.
Yeah.
We saw that, and Kirk was like, "Oh, it's just like a Tiba."
So the finals next Saturday in Columbus. It's a 1:00 Pacific time kickoff, which I don't like in one way, but it should be over. I can get to a VMSL game at 3:30 at Burnaby Lake, so I guess it's not too bad. It'll be in TSN, according to the MLS website, so at least folk can get to see it.
They're just getting every game this week.
Yeah. Who do you have for it?
I'll go with Canadian Maxime Crépeau.
I think it's going to be 2-1 Columbus, but it might be extra time.
Really?
Mm.
Why do you say that?
LAFC aren't great on their travels, especially out east. It's going to be very cold.
Yeah, that I think that might be a bigger factor than the traveling.
Well, actually, I'm saying it's going to be very cold. I'm guessing that. Let me just have a quick look at the weather here.
Well, it looks pretty cold today.
Yeah. Huh. I take it back. Saturday is to be 13 degrees and rainy.
Oh, that's not cold at all.
No.
Wait, 13 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius?
At Celsius.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's almost balmy.
Yeah, it's to be like 4 on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then it just goes up in time for the final.
Oh, that's great for the league, for the fans in Columbus, for the traveling fans. Did you see? There's this. Speaking of LAFC support, did you see they did some marching down there in Middle Cascadia? Did you see that?
No.
Oh yeah, they took quite a significant group, and they were marching through the streets and stuff.
I saw them in the stadium. I didn't see them march. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So should be a good one. Looking forward to it. The MLS season will wrap up. Our MLS chat has wrapped up. We've got one more part to go. We're going to continue to solve Canadian football and bring you song number 13 in our Festive 15. And we'll be back with all of that after this.
Hi, I'm Dino Rossi, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
His organ grinder isn't grinding anymore, and I can't shake the feeling that I've seen this dream before. Fucking up and then falling down, but it pops nailed to the door, and I can't see the ceiling 'cause I'm face down on the floor. What you got? There must be an answer to the question I don't know. It's too close to midnight, and there has to be no show. Breaking up and then falling down, and my heart beats much too slow. Best notify the other brother, there's no place to go. Tears are what you want, tears are what you got. vegetable, mineral, animal. I don't know what you want, what you need. I've become recently deceased. I recently deceased. I recently deceased. I recently deceased. I had some blues. I cocaine and disabled. J-A-M-C-O-D. 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 J-A-M-C-O-D.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, and kicking off this part, number 13 in AFTN's 2023 Festive 15 from East Kilbride in Scotland, the Jesus and Mary Chain.
Oh,
This song only came out last week.
I was going to say, I hadn't heard new music from them.
Well, if I'd had it longer to be in my head, this might be higher than 13. But, I mean, it's gone straight in to the charts here at number 13. It's their first single released from their new album that comes out next March. It's called Glasgow Eyes, the album is. And that song is J-A-M-C-O-D. And I tell you, I will be getting that album, and I hope that means that they will then be playing some dates over here. Haven't seen the Jesus and Mary Chain since 2007. So
I don't know their music well, but I remember them. They were around in the 90s, right?
started off in the 80s.
In the 80s, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them from the 90s.
I want to say 84, could be 86. A great band. Watched them for many years now, and yeah, really looking forward. I didn't know they had a new album coming out, so that is their new single. It's number 13. We'll be back with probably 3 more tracks next week in our Festive 15. What could they be? This part, though, we're going to try and continue to fix Canadian football with a little bit of a follow-up from our discussion last week. We had some interesting feedback. We got some emails, some DMs, some stuff on Twitter, just about the discussions we had about how Canadian football basically needs to improve. Get out with the old, in with the new, out with the shit, in with the good stuff. I want to get into a couple of the things that we were sent this week, and we'll cover some others that were sent in the coming weeks, I'm sure, as well. But friend of the show, long-time listener, Greg Petrie, gave us 3 realistic fixes for Canadian soccer. Number 1, I'd like to see improvement in coaching at the grassroots level. I'm just not sure we're providing high enough coaching for our high performance players early enough. In general, I'm sure there are exceptions. And I'll come to that with the second thing that we're going to go over from the second person as well. Number 2, I'd like the current CSB agreement torn up and a new one written that feels more like a partnership. As it stands, with a flat fee, any real growth of revenue only benefits the CSB owners and not the CSA or players. I'd like a model where a percentage is shared by all, which I think would encourage more cooperation amongst all parties, since they'd all have a stake in revenue growth.
I hear what Greg's saying, and I think it comes back to something we've talked about a lot, where within the game, everyone is looking out for their own self-interest, right? There's always this element of I have to take care of me first and others or whatever next, right? So yeah, the CSB deal is meant to protect those who chose to invest in the men's professional league, right? And give them some long-term hope at being able to make money. They're not making any money. They haven't made any money. Any money they've received from the CSB has gone into the costs of running the teams. That's what they've said publicly. That's what they've said privately. So I know some people choose to not believe that, which I think is unfortunate. But I don't think you can just tear up the CSB deal. But I do think the long-term ultimate best situation would be the CSA, the CPL/CSB people, and where things are at now, Project 8 people all coming together and forging a path forward. Again, there I said it again. Carving a path going forward. And that would be the most ideal thing. But that's not going to happen because none of those people are going to lay down where they're at or their priorities or their values or whatever. The CSA exists to help both those organizations because both those organizations help them live out their mandate as a football association. But yeah, I think if the CSB were to be torn up right now and not replaced with something not replaced in a meaningful way, then yeah, the CPL would not last long at all. Like it provides the hope going forward that one day those owners can turn those clubs into something that does generate a profit.
It's a double-edged sword for them because if they rip up, if the CPL owners stroke CSB rip up the deal, sign a new one where it what Greg is suggesting, I think would be great. It's what the game needs, and it is what would drive it forward because all parties would have a stake in the revenue growth. So for everyone, it's in their interest to grow it, and that's what is needed. And if CSB ripped it up and agreed to that, how they are looked upon would be way better than it is now, PR-wise, every other way-wise. But if they do that, the CPL might not be around.
Yeah, and
it's like balancing that.
I also agree how you've said it here, how Greg said it to you. Also, again, these owners, these people who make up CPL, CSB, again, he says it only benefits them. And they do. It does create revenue towards their operating costs, but again, they are not making any money off it, and they themselves have invested like over $100 million to try and. So it does benefit because it says not the CSA or the players. I think Greg's just thinking of like national team players. The CSB deal benefits Canadian players that are playing in the CPL. Yeah, which is, every country needs a domestic league to continue to grow its players, which is why there needs to be a women's league. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think it's not. What did you say? Realistic fixes? I don't think that's necessarily a realistic fix. Although I don't disagree that those three parties coming together to chart a path forward would be ideal, but it's just not going to happen because one, Project 8 won't even sit at the table to talk about that, and two, the CPL CSB owners are not going to walk away from something that is significant to try and keep this, moving forward to one day where it is profitable. The third suggestion from Greg is some people might not like to hear it, but I prefer that MLS teams continue to be granted approval to play in MLS indefinitely. Having 3 teams in MLS gives players easier access to bigger leagues than the CPL will ever be. I think there's a fairly clear pyramid, which is currently MLS, CPL, League 1s, which will allow players to move up or down as they develop or don't. As a Whitecaps fan, I find it meaningful to have games against Seattle and Portland on a regular basis. We've also seen the interest a visiting MLS team generates for CPL sides in the Voyageurs Cup, and what sort of buzz that creates when they win.
Finally, we've seen the attendance in the CPL gets in 2 of the 3 big markets in Canada. I'm not saying they can't do better, but I've also seen the attendance during the USL days and then what the MLS team started drawing once they arrived. Like it or not, there's a significant number of casual fans who will support MLS who will never support the CPL, much like there's a lot of people who support the NFL but they will never support the CFL. And he's got a good point with that, because I had a couple of folk message me as well and say one thing that was overlooked in our discussion about it is a lot of people don't even want to watch MLS here because they think it's a poor level. So if they're not going to watch MLS, then they're not going to go and watch CPL or anything like that as well. And
yeah, but are those people who really have an interest in growing the game in Canada?
No, it's people. I mean,
I'm not saying the game doesn't need them. I'm just saying that's not your.
No, that's a different discussion. Yeah.
But I find it Greg's view on that very myopic, right? Like, he's saying the CPL will never ever be at the level of MLS, and at the same number of years he might be right, but I don't know. I just I don't know. I long to see how the CPL grows and how it continues to be a league that Canadians can be proud of, and that continues to provide a pathway forward for players. Like we've talked about it even on this episode, like a Mo Farsi or, and so it's just, I mean, he's a Whitecaps fan, and so of course that's his perspective and opinion, and he's of course welcome to have it. I just think it's you wouldn't expect a Whitecaps fan to say anything other than that, right? Like,
well, I totally agree with Greg. It's like the CPL is never going to be more than a minor league compared to MLS. Like, you look at the players that's in MLS now. In the past, you mentioned Bastian Schweinsteiger earlier. Obviously, there's Messi just now, who's a unique thing. But just look around the league, the players that's come, the players, the talent, the quality, the fans that they're attracting. The CPL is never going to get to that level because the appetite in this country for that level does not exist. And Greg makes a good point. You look at what the Whitecaps drew in their USL days, where they often sold out Swan Guard, but not every single game. And you look at, as soon as they went into MLS, that crowd more than doubled, tripled, quadrupled. And there's an appetite here for, if you stick major, like if it was major Canadian Premier League, maybe that would have got folk. But realistically, there is more excitement for, like, if the Whitecaps were to join the CPL, no one is going to care Whitecaps against York. Whitecaps against TFC, on the other hand, oh, that's exciting.
You're saying the Whitecaps versus Columbus was exciting in 2011?
2011 it was, because it was the first
season.
Because
it's new?
But yeah. But no, I mean, there's some teams that the Whitecaps play in MLS that, it's like hard to get
the Colorado Rapids.
But ultimately, they're in your conference, so it's points. But likewise, it's
the same thing. That's the same thing. Like, over time, York as a club, when you play them, you have no history with them. Of course, there's not going to be excitement, but that's what builds over time, right? Like,
but I'm not even talking. I'm talking about the quality on the pitch. Like, it goes back to what I said last week. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And it's like, unless the CPL's budget increases 100-fold, then it's never going to be a top quality league. It's always going to be a developmental league at worst, and at best, a league with some up-and-coming talent and some old veterans sprinkled in.
So you think the goal should be for Canada to have more MLS teams?
I'd be for that, because it's a higher level and the players will develop, and it'll stop them having to go to Europe to go and play in third tier in Germany or first, second tier in Scandinavia.
Okay. Yeah. I don't disagree with you that CPL is it is at the level it is because of what they're paying, of course. And it is development of players and creating pathways is a core part of why the league exists. That's part of the mandate. And will that ever change? Will it ever become a league that, like you say, has a salary cap budget of 10 times what it is now? I guess maybe in one sense, I hope that, in 10 years it will be like that, or 10 years or whatever, 25 years or whatever. What, is MLS at 30 years now?
Not 20...
Between 25 and 30.
7, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it might go that route, or it might continue to be more on the developmental side. But
I guess to sum up what I'm getting at is, how do players improve and develop? By playing against good players, by top quality players. And there's not enough of that in the CPL for them to develop the way that they need it for the national team. You're only going to do that in a league like MLS because the American teams are going to be drawing in the top talent.
I would agree if Canada had a league for the last 30 years, Michael. But this is like at the beginning of something new. So, of course, you're starting at a certain level. And I think the levels, you even said, have been better than expected out of the gate.
Yeah. But if you look at where we are 5 years into CPL and where MLS was 5 years in, MLS were ahead, although the CPL looks more financially stable because the MLS were going through owners, or one owner, and then losing teams left, right and centre before. I don't know what flicked the switch, actually, that it started to stabilise and start becoming better. That would be the interesting question to look at.
It was after the retraction of the Florida teams. I mean, CPL, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing yet. I don't even know how I feel about it, but they've just brought in another ownership group?
Yeah, the Mexicans.
For the York situation. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Hopefully it helps York. I mean, one of the big things is this group is supposedly re-engaged with the prospect of upgrading the Woodbine racetrack into a stadium.
Yeah. So I had they hope one more year where they are, and then they look to move. But I think having groups like that in should push the league to then strive for higher standards. It's like if you look at like Afshin coming into Vancouver FC, how much he talked about, I'm not used to this amateurness. He used the words, it's like I'm surrounded by amateurs. And it's like you need people to come in to push that, say, no, we need this. That needs to be better. You can't be taken seriously if you're going to do this. You have to do this. Having owners like Atletico Madrid
sure,
and then the Mexican,
because you know exactly. With Atletico Madrid, they want things to push forward, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is for them. This is also for them long term. It's an opportunity for development in a different country. It's opportunity to have places for some of their players in some of their other parts of their empire to get playing time.
And as much as I hate saying this, developing the brand into a worldwide
that too
thing.
Which obviously I don't really care about that, but yeah.
No, but that's what the clubs do. So they only do that if the league's successful.
Yeah, I totally understand why Greg has that opinion, and obviously, yeah, I think there are lots of people who have that opinion. But I don't know. I'm really happy that our country has our own domestic league, and I long to continue to see it grow and develop. And I want to be a part of that. Like I don't know, it's exciting for me.
Yeah, I agree, and I do as well. But MLS to me is the higher level, and the Whitecaps, as Whitecaps, I would want them to stay in MLS because you're not going to get current Canadian internationals wanting to play CPL. And by current, I don't mean the new ones that's maybe got a cap here or there. But
I just remember, this is a response to, was it last episode where I said long term?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we never talked about that beforehand.
No,
and I was just in the moment. I was like, oh, this would be nice long term. Now I remember.
Yeah, no, it was in reply to that.
Yeah, okay. That's sorry, Greg. That's a fair rebuttal.
I also got a message. This is the other thing we'll talk about in this show, from a father and a coach who has put multiple children of his own through BC Soccer on both the male and female side, and he's coached, and he's got 25 years experience in the local game here. What he says is the underlying issues are really about the club setup under BC Soccer and their lack of control or oversight of those clubs. BC Soccer needs to provide direction, guidance, and put in place expectations for clubs. In the absence of such, technical directors create their own little fiefdoms and make decisions based on their own best interest or the interest of lobby groups instead of youth development. Clubs therefore play to win instead of playing to develop. As such, small kids with skill get written off before they get to puberty, while players that grow at ages 11 to 13 get promoted because of size and speed. Clubs then support only the highest level, putting all their eggs in one basket, leaving those smaller skilled players behind. Once they grow, it's too late for them because they were omitted from development at a young age.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all. I mean, I think
we've heard that.
I've seen it. We've heard it.
We've heard this quite a bit in the past. Yeah,
because folk develop at different times, and this is a big thing of mine that I feel that players are still developing up to here in Canada 20, 21, 22, 23, which is why I get so pissed off, as I've said ad nauseum now, that the CPL writes them off if they get deemed as too old at 22, 23. But you've got guys coming out of college, SFU, U Sports, whatever, that could definitely make it in the pro game. But there's a bigger focus on youth. With what this comment was as well, is if the kids are overlooked, and there is so much emphasis here put on like fast players. Oh, that kid's got speed, or oh, that kid's really good at 12, let's move him up a couple of age groups. Because there's like when I'm doing my commentary and I'm doing all my in-depth research for all the players, the amount of times that I see somewhere, oh, such and such has played 1 or 2 age groups higher since he was aged whatever, or she was aged since whatever. And it's like that's good because you want them to be challenged. But then what happens to all those other ones in that group? Do they get cast aside? What happens if they then go to college and then start to make the breakthrough? They might be getting good, but they're lacking some of the development or the tactical sense, or they're lacking some of the actual skill that would be needed to make it in the pro game. So you've written them off. It's a tough balancing act, but again, it comes down to self-interest. And BC Soccer has let a lot of clubs just go to their own devices.
I think this is a great topic, but like, what is the mandate of BC Soccer? Are they? I guess I'm asking, are they failing in their mandate, or is this
the mandate's the CSA one of the players' long-term development plan? So there's a set plan, and it evolves from like under 10s, and you don't keep score. And it's meant to be just about development, but the players keep score.
And Divas was a big part of bringing that in, right? Yeah.
And then you've got, it's been a while since I read it, to be honest, but it's like how much work at training is done with the ball, how much is done in actual games, how much is done in training. It's all this set stuff, which is great in theory, and there's no doubting that you look at players in Europe and South America and they're just way more technically gifted than players here in North America. And you have to say, why? Now, it's got a lot better, and the Americans have done very well at that because they've put the money into it. Does it all just come down to money? I don't think it does. I've had the pleasure of doing some local combines and with FTF, and I've done under 17 nationals and some other stuff. And there's talent there. The amount of players as well that I've seen play in VMSL, and I'm like, man, can you imagine how good that player could be if he was in a professional environment 5 days a week? Because he's got the basic skill, but he's just needing someone to fine tune it And I think that's what's very frustrating. Second bit of this was, you can see all of these things. This is going back to the message that I got from a number of the Whitecaps youth players, a couple of whom I've coached when they were younger, one boy, one girl. Both were pulled up to higher ranks at a young age because of size and strength over skill, but they were both dropped by the age of 15 and 16 because then they had no longer had that advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, he mentioned, that clubs are encouraged to, that they're not discouraged for player movement out of a district. And for example, he said that there's a Fraser Valley club who had a goalkeeper from Victoria on their squad. So he says that's an example of wanting a winning team instead of developing the youth in your own district. And he said, I have tons of similar examples. Now, I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right. That is about, oh, I want to have a winning team. I want to have the best team on the pitch.
Yeah.
Because you're making money, you're getting sponsors money, and you may
That's
be
quite a
winning
commute.
provincials. It is a hell of a commute. But it's, I mean, there's no easy answer. If there's folk that run youth clubs here, share some of your experiences. I'd love to know if you're finding that as well. What happens between 11 and 16 for you that needs to be improved?
Just to bring this into the developmental and beyond stage or whatever, I know you and I have a bit different perspective on Vancouver FC's use of local players, and I really appreciate the 5 local guys who've come, and we've seen a couple of really young ones make the breakthrough, and especially Anthony White and TJ Daheed. And the TJ Daheed is like, you're like, how many more TJ Daheeds are there out there that need to be fostered in whatever? Because every time I see him play, and especially even just watching him at the U17 World Cup, man, he's an exciting player with a lot of potential and a lot of current qualities, and you just want more of that, right? Like you want more of that. And so,
well, that goes back to what I was saying. Like, you see these players and you're like, imagine them with 5 days professional training for a year.
Yeah.
Where does that take their game from and to?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
It's a whole pathway thing as well, which will bring us on to the last point, which I wanted to talk about, which was the other big announcement this week. League1 Canada has bought League1 BC, taking it away from BC Soccer, and they will run the league from the 2024 season, and I could not be happier. It has needed to get away from BC Soccer to have the growth that this league needs. And I know that there's owners that have been pushing for certain things that's been getting pushed back, and this is now an opportunity under League1 Canada for League1 BC to really grow and hopefully take lessons from what's happening out in Ontario and League1 Ontario. They've now got 2 divisions. They're having a youth thing as well for under 20s. There's the women's league there as well. They've promotion relegation. They've got a whole pyramid system and a great pathway and great development. What they haven't...
Is Dino Rossi the commissioner of the...
He's commissioner of League1 BC. They will be hiring a general manager as well. They're actually actively hiring a general manager just now for...
Dino's for all of Canada, right?
Yes. So he is League1 Canada commissioner. We're actually going to speak... I was speaking to Dino this week, and I said, oh, do you want to come on the show and we'll chat about it? And he said, wait till after Christmas. We've got some things we're working on.
Cool.
Get in touch in January and I'll come on and I'll talk to you about stuff.
I have a lot of time for Dino.
I do as well. And I want to be a part of League1 BC and the growth of it. And I haven't shared this on I might have shared this with you privately, but I haven't shared this on the show.
I think I know what you're going to talk about.
I was going to walk away from covering the league next year. I was very close because I've been so pissed off with things that's been happening under BC Soccer in the last 2 years with it, that it just felt pointless to be putting all the time and effort into it because it wasn't going the way it should be. You've got like Notsamot that's dropped out this year, and Notsamot bought the franchise rights from Varsity.
Them losing it has nothing to do with BC Soccer.
No, but...
But I know what you're going to say,
Yeah. So one of the reasons that they've lost it is they got funding last year from the government, and it's 6 figures, because Not So Small, the idea behind Not So Small is great. Get Indigenous youth, get Indigenous players involved in the game, because for far too long they've been pushed to the outside here. And the worry for me always was, if you speak to anyone in local circles, they'll be like, well, a lot of the top Indigenous players are playing in like VMSL Div 3, Div 4. They are not at League 1 level. And you saw that because of very few of them really made... It was better on the women's side, but very few on the men's side made any real impact. And that's because the investment hasn't been there for them, and the development hasn't been there for them. And it's like, oh, this club could maybe do that, but it didn't. And the funding then, because the growth wasn't seen, maybe certain things weren't ticked, it wasn't there for 2024, so the club couldn't afford to run. So Varsity wanted to come back into the league, but they were told, oh no, you sold your rights, so you're going to have to reapply to get back into the league. So UBC now are like, well, okay, let's just move in a different direction. So hopefully this will now reopen to the likes of UBC, maybe not for next year, but for 2025. But the thing with BC Soccer is it was a closed shop for League 1. Existing clubs, unless it was a TSS or Highlanders that had done it at a high level before, and obviously the Whitecaps, couldn't get in. So you couldn't get your Coquitlam Metrofords, who have run youth programmes for years. You couldn't get your Coastal, your Columbus, all Surrey FC, all these teams that spend money on the boys and girls and the male and the female to grow the game, to develop players here, were being shut out. Now, under this, looking at the League 1 Ontario model, this is going to open up to more teams. I'm going into stuff I was going to do when we did our League 1 review, so I won't do too much more. But things like making sure that every team has a male and a female team. I said this in last week's show, that's not necessarily the best thing. If a club wants to focus only on the women, let them have that. Don't make them have a men's team as well, and vice versa. Rivers really struggled to get players this season for their women's side, and they finished bottom and they were getting hammered in some of the games, and it was a really tough season for them. What's the onus for these girls to come back and play next year? So it's all this stuff. It's going to be moving in a different direction. We're going to have a better pathway. We'll cover this a lot more when we speak to Dino in January, but I'm very excited by it, and I think this is a good start to really shaking up and overhauling football here in BC.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, you and I think both know why BC Soccer took the approach they did, and now it's not in their control, and so it's likely to change, which I don't disagree with you that there's a lot of positives that will come from that. I'm just excited that Dino is going to be hands-on with what's going to happen. And
I'm just excited we might get a proper streaming thing sorted out, and not just selfishly from me commentating, but just so that folk can actually see the fucking games. Yeah,
I got to come commentate with you sometime.
It's very exciting, and I'll just close things up by saying I was at a VMSL game today, and it was the top of the table clash in the Premier. VUFC Hibernian, which is UBC fringe players and alumni, and Columbus FC, who have such a rich history, over 60 years I think it is here in BC. Now, Columbus, not all the players were there today, but on their squad this season, Emiliano Brienza, prospect for the Whitecaps for so long, leading scorer right now in VMSL. Andre Bears went off to college, now back in BC. Simone Massey was playing VMSL Premier today. He's just been released by WFC 2. These are players that, like Vancouver FC, need to have a look at. They've played at the top level. They've been good prospects. These are players that need to be playing at League 1 to get themselves back into the pro game. And clubs like Columbus are the exact kind of club that you want to have in a League 1. So hopefully, if there's interest, of course, from both sides, because it has to be the club side as well, hopefully things are going to be a changing. And yeah, just fingers crossed that we actually see League 1 BC be the league that I want it to be. But yeah, let us know your thoughts again on development, fixing the game here, what you'd like to see. That is it for the football chat. We've got one thing left to do, which is bring you this episode's wavelength. I talked about Scotland in part 1 at the Euros, drawn against Germany. I thought I would play a song about a Scottish legend in wavelength this week, Kenny Dalglish. This is a song from 1996 by a Birmingham-based band called Mad Jocks and Englishmen. This is Just Like Kenny. Mad Jocks and Englishmen, Just Like Kenny, song about Kenny Dalglish. When will we see his likes again in Scotland? An absolute legend that we've never really had a player like him. Probably one of the best Scottish players of all time.
Yeah, he had some good coaching moments too.
Yeah, it didn't quite hit the dizzy heights as coach. I mean, did well, obviously, and won titles and stuff, but it's tough when a player that's done so well goes into coaching and maybe just doesn't quite hit the levels that's expected of him. But that is it for the show. Any final thoughts from you, Zach? Any funny things caught your eye this week?
No, I just want to say, if you're listening to this Monday or maybe Tuesday morning and for some reason you don't have your tickets to go and see Christine Sinclair's final ever match for the Canadian
International.
Final match for Canada.
Yeah.
Come out and be a part of that. I don't know what the number is now, but it's over 41,000 for sure.
I've heard that could get up to 45.
Yeah, so come and be a part of that. It's going to be a special occasion. If you do go to the game, if you are going to be at the game, there's going to be a whole bunch of presentations and stuff going on before the match, as Michael said earlier. But also stick around after the match because there'll be a couple of things happening then too.
I just want to say a big well done to Felipe Vihel.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks ago, when Felipe was on the show, he mentioned that he was taking over as head coach of VMSL, Division 4 side, Burnaby Spartans B. lost their first game 3-2. It was an own goal, but they did well in that one. But he's got his first win this weekend. Big 3-1 win over Royal City Blues at Mercer Stadium in New West. I thought about going out to that, but I forgot. I got my days mixed up. But
could he have dealt with your heckling?
I'd just get him on video or just show him losing it on the sideline. See what he's learned from Vanni.
I also think you mispronounced his last name, but
I have. I can't pronounce it. Yeah. I'm sticking with Vallejo.
That's definitely not how it's pronounced.
Felipe V.
Felipe V. That's good.
FV. You're an FV fanatic.
That's true.
But that is it for the show. We'll be back with another one soon. It's a special show next Sunday. See if you can work out why. But until then, thanks for listening. Take care. Mon the Caps. Allez le Rouge. Bye, everybody.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
AFTN